guys, welcome back to Magic TV. It's 9 o'clock. It's time for a Talk Magic, and I'm here today with somebody I've spoken about a lot on the channel. He's an amazing performer and creator of both magic and mentalism, the one and only Patrick Redford. Patrick, thank you so much for coming on the channel.
It's really lovely to be on the channel since I think we've only really met once, very briefly at Blackpool years ago. So it's lovely to see you in real time rather than seeing you in rehearsed time on a screen.
Absolutely. And I know how busy you are, and we're going to get into that. So really, seriously, thank you for finding the time to come on here.
My pleasure, my friend.
Before we start, I just want to clear something up, because obviously the world knows you as Patrick Redford. But as we have been, and I know this story, but I'd like you to share it very briefly. As we've been chatting back and forth on Facebook, it's George that's been messaging me. And dealing with you, it's almost like dealing, and I've talked to you about this off camera, it's like dealing with a superhero. You've got, by day, mild-mannered George, by evening, Patrick Redford, magician superstar. Where did that come from, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, man, if it's like talking to a superhero, boy, did I get the short end of the stick on all counts there, because I have no superpowers whatsoever. Like I was mentioning before, it's no secret that there's a George Tait, there's a Patrick Redford. George Tait is my real name. It's who I perform under. It's who I live under. Patrick doesn't actually exist. So when you say the world knows Patrick Redford, that's not quite true. Magicians know Patrick Redford. And it's funny that magicians don't know George Tait, because they're just used to seeing all the branding and the marketing stuff, which Patrick Redford is under. Patrick is my middle name originally. It still is, as far as I know. I'll have to check my ID later. George is not my birth name either. James was my birth name, and my folks changed it to George. Actually, when they got me home, they decided that they didn't want two Jameses in the house, because that's my father's name. Well, that's not actually his name, that's his middle name. It's all very confusing. So let me put it this way, right? Just think of it this way. George Tait is the guy who always performs for you, and Patrick is the jerk who explains how it all works. And it's just marketing. It's not a big secret. I don't care that people know one for the other. It's just that if you type into Google after seeing George Tait do a show, I want you to find George Tait and things relevant to my show. I don't want a bunch of magic shops and products that you can buy to pop up. Not that I mind laymen buying my stuff if they really want to put in the work. Good on you, because it will take work. I'm not trying to be out there being the real deal or think that secrets are the Holy Grail of things that we have to keep locked into a safe. But it's just marketing. So if you want to buy Patrick Redford material, patrickredford.com, Patrick Redford wherever, that's what you get. If I'm at a convention, I still perform at conventions as George Tait, not Patrick Redford. But Patrick Redford is the guy who does the lecture, which does still confuse people. And I will tell you this story, not to Kreskin your whole interview at the moment. I remember back when, no, not to Kreskin your interview, but when I was at Blackpool a number of years ago, and I was on the evening show, people came up to me afterwards and said they walked out of the evening show because they were expecting to see Patrick Redford, but some guy they never heard of named George Tait was introduced in that time slot, and they went, "We came to see Patrick Redford, we're leaving." And they missed the show, and they were annoyed at me for it. So you can't please everyone.
But that's one of the reasons I've got so much respect for you as a creator. I'm not going to name names, but there are creators out there that don't really perform that much. They just create and release product after product after product. There's nothing wrong with that. But you are a very successful performer. And I love the fact that I know that when you release a product and you create a product, you are going to have worked that in. You're going to have spent time and energy making that the best it can be, as opposed to having an idea, filming a DVD, doing it again and again and again. And that's one of the things I love about you. The fact that you've gone to the trouble of having an alter ego because you want to keep things separate. It's so smart. It really is.
I don't care what anybody says about you, man. That was really nice. No, I'm serious here. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
It's true. Let's start at the very beginning. Let's keep the superhero thing going.
Okay. October 14th, 80, 82, 83. What year was I born? Oh, that's too far back. What were you saying?
Conception, or was that actual birth? Let's talk about your origin story. So when did you get into magic, or when did the bug bite?
Like most magicians, probably. I was a young kid, about 5 years old. I did my first show. I come from a family of entertainers. My dad was a variety entertainer. My mother, a musician / music teacher. So, they were very disappointed to find out that I wanted to make a career out of entertaining because they know how hard it is. So my focus has always really been on mentalism, although I've done a lot of magic as well. I did tableside magic for years when I was a teenager, which is where a lot of my card stuff comes from, is those years. And a lot of the stuff that I'm publishing now, because I never had the intention to start publishing anything until somebody asked me to. And I went, well, maybe. And then I had to figure out, do I use George Tait or do I use Patrick? And I went, well, maybe if it becomes popular, I should at least come up with a name. And I don't know if that's the right decision, mind you, because it does confuse people, and it confuses people in the real world as well. And the advantage people who publish under their real name have over me is they have a credential notebook that a client will go, "Ooh, you are the expert. Everybody goes to you." For me and those clients that care about that sort of thing, I can say, "Oh yes, I've written a couple dozen books." And they type in George Tait and they see one, because George Tait has written one book. Patrick has written all the other ones. So there's all of that. But my father was a clown, so I was thrown into that and realized there's no way I ever want to make a career out of clowning. It sounds horrible and awful. I did do living statue for quite some time, but I don't mean living statue like you stand out there and just stand still and people throw a coin into your bucket. I did a full-blown 4-hour show that was silent mind reading as a statue, as a festival performer for about 20 years of my life. And that was recently retired. So that was one of my bread and butter acts. When people go, "You did what now?" And we can talk about that if you'd like. I've been very quiet about it because I didn't want anyone else doing it at the time. I'm done, and I was done just in time 1 year before COVID hit the world, and I wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. So mind reader, no, but I'm happy. I'm happy that I stopped when I did, but lots of fun. So I've done a little bit of everything over the years. I toured with Masters of Illusion. I've worked behind the scenes on various television shows. I've done a hodgepodge of stuff. But that's what you do as an entertainer, is you don't have a 9 to 5. So you go, what can get us work? Where can we go now? I've done trade shows. I've done corporate. I've done very little birthday parties, actually. So I can't say I've done that. When I was a kid, I did like kids' birthday parties. When I stopped being a kid, I went, I don't belong here. So, I've ridden the whole wave.
And have you always been a full-time performer? Was there a period in your life where you had a job, or with your influence of your parents, along with your passion that you've had for performing, has it always been kind of a full-time performer in one way or another?
When I was at university, I was still a full-time performer, but I also got a job on campus working in a cash office. So for 4 years, I was a cash office payroll manager, very part-time, and it was just what I would do between classes when I was on site. But one of the conditions that I had with most of my professors in school was that I had the ability to that they weren't grading on attendance, because there would be times when I couldn't be there because I was out working and doing shows still. That's probably the time period where I was doing the least amount of shows, was back when I was in college. And that's where that secondary job, I say secondary job, I don't know what to call that. It doesn't feel like a job when I think about it. I was just responsible for some other people some nights of the week and also all of their money. So that was fun too. So no, I've never really had a real job, quote unquote, but I did work behind the counter of a magic shop for about 10 years, every once in a while helping out. But that, again, I don't consider that a real job either, because what started as me saying to the owner of that shop, which was, "I'm happy to help out, I'm happy to help you stay afloat," because brick and mortar businesses, magic in particular, can be a real struggle. And doing anything I can to give back to that community is always useful. I never expected to be there for 10 years. And I only recently stopped helping out because he sold the company to a new party who is doing just fine, and they don't need me. So they're doing quite well on their own.
And so you've been involved as a performer one way or another your whole life. Obviously a lot of people know you as a creator of magic. When did that happen, and how did it happen? Was it originally you were just creating routines for yourself, for your own purposes?
Yeah.
When did that turn into, I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to release it to the magic community?
So I had no intention of releasing anything ever. It was the first person who asked me. I think I was about 11 years old. I was at a convention here in the Metro Detroit area. It was called John Luca's Motor City Close-Up Convention, which is no more. They don't do it anymore, but those of you who were there know how wonderful it was. And John Luca is just a fantastic convention thrower and human being in general. But there's another gentleman that was in audience there, and some of you may know him. His name's Tony Miller, or Anthony Miller, who is a character in his own right. And he saw me doing this silly little card thing. And at the time, he had a magazine that he was putting out. And he went, I want to put this trick in my magazine. And I said, no, very snootily, right? Sticking my nose up. No, this is mine. You cannot have this. I'm a hotshot young punk-ass kid, basically. I don't know what I actually said to him. I just was like, no, why would I ever publish anything? This is my stuff. And in fact, I don't believe that particular card thing was ever officially published. It was put up on the second deal, which is no more, as a video for those users. I have no idea if anybody had ever paid attention to it. And in subsequent years, Tony and I have actually become friends. And I went, this is probably all your fault. Like a lot of things are Tony's fault. Some much more unmentionable than others. But so it's probably his fault. But it wasn't until after college, early college. It was 2004 was the first thing I published, 2003. Somebody from another university came up to me after one of my festival shows and said, hey, I have a small magic club at my university that we run. We would really love you to come do a talk. We can't pay you, but would you be willing? And this is somebody that I knew on and off. I didn't know him well. I didn't know that he was into magic. So I kind of like brushed it off and said, yeah, absolutely, just get in touch with me. And a year later he did. And I went, crap, now I did say I had to do this, so I have to go do that. So between John Stirk, which a lot of people know from Magic Inc. and Chicago Magic Lounge, and he's off in Chicago being very wildly successful, and Tony Miller, those are probably the two people who are responsible for Patrick Redford's existence, at least on paper. But the things that I'm known for releasing early on are a lot of the mentalism things that I was doing, just because they were a little bit more unique. The first booklet I put out was something called Diapason, because I like strange names. In fact, every lecture notes I've ever put out have had a music term as their title. So there was like Tropo and Brio and Diapason and so on. Why? I don't know. Because, like I said, I was a smart punk-ass kid that wanted to look smarter than I am. So, and I still do that stuff. Although I've dumbed down my titles a little bit, starting with the hands-off DVD. Actually, I think was the first product that we dumbed down the title of to put out there.
Well, you have brought out so much material, and you've brought out a lot of material through lots of different companies. I remember you put out stuff through Vanishing Ink.
Yeah.
I think.
In fact, I was the very first DVD Vanishing Ink ever put out was Prevaricator, which was my DVD. That was their very first DVD on the market.
No way! I didn't know that.
Back when they were nobody. We shot that in Josh's living room, and he had no set, he had no lights, there was no budget. It was a lot of fun to do. And actually, we met up at a cafe. We were both on the road. We met. I don't remember where we were meeting up, but it was at like a Bob Evans. We had a meeting, and he said, we're starting a little magic company. If there's anything at all that you have that you can give to our company that we can work on, we'd love to work with you. We'd love to produce something. And at the time, Prevaricator was just a book, and I was doing workshops. So there was a workshop booklet and then the product that was on the market. And I said, there's some drama around this product right now. So if you would like some drama in your life so I can wash my hands of it, the product is yours, but I need it done in a very specific way. I want to do workshop because we have a split screen. Basically, if you don't know Prevaricator, for those who are watching this, it's a crash course in non-contact mind reading. So divining where objects are for real. A lot of people think, oh, that's that Liar and Truth Teller DVD. It's this much of it. I still think it was marketed poorly, but that's, it is what it is. We were all learning how to do magic marketing back then. It really is a crash course on non-contact mind reading where a group of people can hide an object on one person in the room without asking questions. You can tell them where it is. Or there's a slew of different witch hand techniques that many people have published since, not referencing all the stuff that was on Prevaricator. Not saying that's bad, because people do wonderful things with all that stuff. But there's tons of things hidden away on there that I've seen come out as other products in recent years. And they aren't all my techniques. There are people like Ryan Frame who had monstrous contributions to that project that I think he goes majorly overlooked. Of course, my friend Ben Blau has monstrous contributions on that project as well that I also think go overlooked. Paul Vigil has a monstrous contribution on there, and so on. And people like Barry Richardson and Banachek, tons of people contributed to what that thing is. So it's not a trick, it was a whole thing. But I'm digressing. Anyway, so we're in his apartment. How long do you have? Do we have 5 hours for this interview?
If you want to beat Sean Farquhar, he went 3.5. So.
Oh, we're not being Sean Farquhar, but I have a story about him as well. We have no backdrop, but there's an area rug on the carpet, on the floor rather. So we pick up the carpet and we tack it, we hang it up on the wall as the backdrop. You know, very shoestring budget, but it looks great. The DVD turned out really, really well, and I'm quite pleased with it. It's not a DVD anymore. I think it's just a download on their site, so you don't even have to pay shipping for it anymore. But if you don't have it, it's a fantastic little thing. And there's only like 2 things that I held back that came out later from that project. Not that I was trying to hold anything back. One of which I was told by a friend never to ever release, and so I only put it in workshops. And then somebody came along and published that on one of the other competing companies. And then the other nugget that I held back was just my work, which we call Sunrise, which is only available through Penguin. They have the exclusive on that. That's also a download. I think it's like 10, 15 bucks. It's a steal. Which is really it really was my backup to all the Prevaricator stuff, because even though it is all psychological, it's all no-fail systems, where even if you fail, there's always another place to go. So, and it's called Prevaricator because you always know where you're starting, you always know when you stop, where you're going to end, you just don't know what's in the middle, so you prevaricate your way there. That's it in a nutshell.
Well, with all of the stuff that you've created, and a lot of it's so clever, do you have any advice? It's the Holy Grail, isn't it? Let's be honest. For a magician, somebody coming into magic, they want to be a creator of magic. We hold certain people up on pinnacles or pedestals, and it's normally the creators of magic. And it's a goal for a lot of magicians to become a creator, a well-known creator. I want to produce a book, a DVD. Have you got any advice on how to create a magic trick? And how do you find your inspiration? You've created so many things over the years. Where do you get the equivalent of writer's block? I mean, you produce so much stuff. You must have.
Well, I've never ever put out a magic product just to put out a magic product. I've never produced a magic product for other people. I've only ever done it for me. I've had, a handful of people, not many, come to me, and I've watched them grow up, which is weird because I'm not that old. But I've watched people grow up in this business who came to me and said, hey, I really want to publish this. And I ask everybody the same thing, which is, why? What is your reasoning behind it? Is it ego? Because if it's ego, don't do it. It's not worth it. Because having the accolades of your peers going, oh, that's really clever, it lasts about 5 seconds and it gets old real quick. Because they move on to the next thing. Not that the feeling of getting appreciation gets old. That never gets old. But your product lasts about 5 seconds on the market, maybe less now. I am at my heart, I'm a book guy, which is why most of the things that I've produced have been written matter or written materials, books, and not videos or downloads or gimmicks, although there's been a handful of those as well, but mostly just books. And the reason I love books are for 2 reasons. One, books will be here forever. Books are very hard to forget. They are a record of time versus a download, which is here and it's gone and it might be lost to time. Since we don't have physical media anymore, or less and less physical media as time goes on, and the physical media that we do have, the ways to play those are starting to disappear as well. A book is an archive. It's a record. It's a historical document. And I love, if you've ever read any of my books, I always go very deep into all the credits and the history of ideas that I wasn't necessarily aware of at the time, but are certainly things that I discovered after researching an idea. So there's 2 things I tell people. One, what is your reason to publish? Is it just for ego reasons? Do you want the accolades? Is it for monetary reasons? If it's for money, also just go perform. You'll make a lot more money performing than you will selling magic tricks. Although, unless there's a pandemic and then, oh man, sell magic tricks, because that's a market that is available to you, and is a great thing to have. I am certainly thankful for the magic community and the people who buy products, because the people who buy products are not necessarily professional magicians. They are the hobbyists. They're the 9-to-5ers. There's the people who, this is their hobby, this is their interest, this is what they do. Most professionals have their set, they do what they do. They don't need all of this, all of the toys and all the gizmos and all the books. Which also might be why I also gravitate towards books in my publishing stuff, is because I'm a professional publishing, not just for professionals, but for everybody. But I don't put a lot of gizmos out because that's just not, I don't use them. I just don't use them. And I've now wandered, and I will do this. So your job today, Craig, is to slap me around and get me back on point, because I've just wandered way off topic. What was our question?
Any advice about creativity?
Oh, about creating. That's what we were talking about. Oh, geez. Yeah. Well, first, make sure your idea is original. And I know that is like the most painful thing in the world, is to realize the thoughts that we have spent hours of our life creating and thinking about might not be the first time somebody thought about that very thing. And that's not a bad thing. You know, there's certainly been many, many ideas that I've wanted to put on market, that I went, wow, this is brilliant, this is great, this works. And guess what? Even though someone else thought of it, I still get to perform it. I just don't get to stick Patrick Redford's name on it and say, look what I made. And that's fine. I'm totally okay with that. So make sure it's original before you put it out, and don't rush things to market. Because I know we live in a world where everybody goes, I just had a brilliant idea and it's for sale the next day. Because it's so much easier to produce magic now than it was 15, 20, even 5 years ago. Because we all have the power to promote it, produce it, and get eyes on it without the help of other magic companies. I've done that. I've used multiple magic companies, as you said, but I've also done most of my products I self-produce. The vast majority of things is from MindTap Productions, which is my production company. And I've produced a few things for other people as well, because you don't always have the time to market and produce and then worry about storing it if it's a physical, tangible item, and shipping those out. So there's that to consider as well. There's two sides to that. There's the, how do we create something and how do we market it? How do we sell it? How do we make it successful? Because you can have one of the best tricks in the world, but if nobody knows about it, what good is that going to do you if you're trying to put it to the market? If you're just trying to create original magic for a show, which I sincerely believe is the way to go, more so than creating original magic so other people can do the same thing you're doing. People kill to have an original show that's different from everyone else's. But, and this is the big but, every magic show, no matter what material is being done, is an original show, or should be, regardless of the material, because nobody can be George Tait. Only I can be George Tait. Nobody can be Craig Petty. Only Craig Petty can be Craig Petty. And I think we get so hung up on chasing the next best trick or the next big thing, because we're trying to find that feeling of astonishment that we've lost because we've lifted the veil, and it's really hard to go backwards again. In fact, it's impossible to go backwards again. Unless you have early onset Alzheimer's, then probably it works. So there's a blessing to that, at least one thing. But otherwise, it's really, really difficult. So if I have an original character on stage, I can have an original show. I don't need original magic. But that's a nice perk. It's a nice perk.
Here's a question for you. You are, and I talked about this at the very, very beginning, you're a very successful performer. You just talked about how, you spent 3 years touring with Masters of Illusion. I mean, that is huge, absolutely huge. And that's just one of many highs that you've had in your career as a performer.
Sure.
With somebody who has such a successful performing career, do you ever kind of feel like, why am I putting my heart and soul into writing this book when I could probably achieve the same amount of financial income from booking one tour or one show or one series of shows than the thousands of hours that I've put into creating this book? Do you know?
I'll tell you why I do it, and I can only speak for me. I can't speak for why somebody else would want to do this. Especially when I was on Masters of Illusion, we were on a tour bus a lot. And when you are on the road with a company like that, you are not in charge. That's something very different from when I'm doing fringe festivals and it's my show, or if I'm just doing a theater run, which is my show. I'm in control of where I'm going, when I'm going to be there, how often I'm working, if I have time off. And usually I have a car that I'm in charge of, or I have a flight schedule that I'm in charge of. When you are part of a larger show, you give all of that up. You give up the privilege of sleeping in the hotel room sometimes because you're sleeping on a tour bus, especially if they're doing an American tour. Generally, here in the States, you are in a different theater every single night. You're not usually, at least with that kind of show, you're not usually doing 2 or 3 nights in one place. So it's get up, go, do the show, break the show down, get on the bus, do it again, which is exhausting. It's one of the reasons I'm not doing it anymore. It's exhausting. It's fun. It's excellent. If you have the opportunity, go do it because it will change your life. But most people I know who have done tours like that, they burn out pretty quick. And you need things to occupy your time. And when you're on the road, whether when I was doing college shows, I was on, on flights, which take time to get from point A to point B. So if you have a laptop or an iPad or something to occupy, I'm a writer at heart. I did competitive slam poetry for years. When I was like 18, I stopped probably around when I was 22 years old. I stopped doing competitive slam poetry. So I'm a writer at heart. If you really want to look at my current project, it's this shameless plug, How to Kill a Piano. It's a story podcast that you can go listen to right now. We're about to start up season 2. It does not exist because of the pandemic, but it certainly exists more because of the pandemic. It's going to be a side project that just sort of took over. So if you like that sort of thing, go check it out. It's on all available podcast platforms or howtokillapiano.com. Anyway, I digress. But I'm a writer at heart. So these books really exist because I needed things to occupy my time. And also, they're therapy for me, which, we can turn this into a therapy session. Thanks for the free therapy session. I appreciate that. But the first Stack book I ever produced exists solely because I went through an awful breakup with someone and my mind needed to focus on something. And it was over the holidays, so I didn't have I don't book more shows around Christmas. That's not my market usually. So I have less shows during the holidays than I do the rest of the year. And so I had very little to do and I needed something to hyper focus on. So I wrote a book. And I wrote that first book in about 2 weeks. That's how quickly the first book came together. But you have to understand, when I'm writing a book, I'm not developing material for the book. I'm taking material that I already have, and I'm going through old notebooks and going, oh, this was a great trick. This would be good for this project, and putting it together. So I'm assembling rather than really writing. And then I just have to make sure, is this easy to follow? Am I doing a good job with the writing, and so on? And sometimes I succeed at that. Sometimes it turns out to be rubbish. Thankfully, I've put out more good stuff than I have crap, but there'll always be crap out there. So that's me. That's why I chose to do it. Why other people choose to do it, that's on you to decide why you want to do all that. But the other nice thing about producing things is people start asking you to talk. It opens up the magic community to you. People start to say, oh, I like that guy. That's weird. I've never met you. How can you don't even know me? How can you like me? But it's always flattering when folks say, hey, come to this convention. I'm not a convention guy. I don't hang out at conventions usually. But the few conventions that I've been asked to speak at, I've always had a fantastic time, mostly just jamming with people into the wee hours of the night. When I've done lecture tours, I always say, look, this is your time. I've got no place to be until the morning. So as long as you guys want to talk, I'm here to talk. So does that answer the question? I hope it does.
That really does answer the question. And I want to talk, I want to pick up on something that you said earlier before we move on. You said no one can be, I can be the only George Tait, I can be the only Craig Betty. I think that one thing that magicians really struggle with is creating a character or developing a character. And you've done that twice, technically. I know that it's kind of the same person, but
we're not. Actually, Patrick is very different from George Tait, and I've which is a weird thing to talk about Patrick. But Patrick, we have things that are similar, of course. We have things that we both like. One of us is a bigger jerk than the other. One of us is kind of an asshole, is what I'm trying to say. The other's a pretty nice guy. I'll let you decide who's who. You don't even know who you're talking to right now. That's how confusing this is. Patrick doesn't usually wear the glasses, I would say. So right now you're probably talking to George. But then there's also George Tait on stage, and then there's George Tait in real life. And those are two very drastically different people. We like different things, even. Like the music that George Tait on stage listens to is not the same music that George Tait off stage listens to. And this now you're going, well, that's heady and weird, and why would I care about that? And why would you even make choices that are different? Isn't the goal to be as much of ourselves on stage as possible? Yes and no. If who I am is an absolute bore, why would anybody else want to pay attention to that? But if I have some things that go, oh, that would be a little bit more interesting if, okay, yes, my character likes that. And also there's character choices that once you know your character, everything else becomes really easy, right? There's certain material that I don't do as George Tait on stage that I love to do off stage because I think it's interesting. And the choice of material is driven purely by who that person is on stage. What is that person like on stage? What is the purpose of this character's existence on stage? And do I want to be like everyone else? Yes, I am a magician. Yes, I am a mentalist. I side with reality more so than trying to create the illusion, or rather the deception that I am the real deal, or a real magician, or a real mentalist, or otherwise. That makes me incredibly uncomfortable on stage and off. So my goal is to always sidestep that as much as I can. But also, I feel like it's my responsibility when anybody comes into my space, which is any theater that I'm working in. Theater doesn't have to be a theater with proper seats and a stage and a proscenium. This is a dingy basement that we've classed up with some lights and a table because this is the world we live in now. But any space, being that somebody's kitchen table, that's a theater. Given it being tableside in a restaurant, that becomes a theater. And a lot of magicians don't even think of it that way because we're just doing tricks. But as soon as you approach it as this is a performance, this is actual theater, that opens up a lot of doors and a lot of different elements to that approach that might not otherwise be there, I think.
Right. You know what? That's exceptional advice. That really is. I want to pick up on something else that you said as well, which is you talked about how sometimes that you market other people's products. Now we talked off camera, and you showed me something that I've never even heard of before, which is rare for me because I review products. I see a lot of tricks. And you said, oh, this went out in Murphy's recently. It's not mine. I marketed it. And it sounds amazing. How did I not hear about this?
It kind of flew under the radar. It came out earlier this year, so it's relatively new. It hasn't been plastered everywhere yet. There was no demo video for it, and things without a demo video, as you know, sometimes kind of fly under the radar or with no video at all. And there was a reason I didn't do the demo. At the time, I thought that might hurt the product. I think I was wrong in that conclusion. There needs to be a demo, but once you put something out and it's with the wholesalers and it goes out into the world, it's kind of a one and done. Things happen so quickly. So to go back and say, and now we're releasing the video, promote it, guys, might happen, but most people have moved on at that point. But this thing is by my friend Craig Logan. I almost said Craig Petty, but Craig Logan, who's from right here in the Metro Detroit area, here in Michigan, which is where I'm located in the world. And it is the only thing in my personal show that I did not create that I perform. And I open with it. I think it solves so many problems that I have faced on this plot that I absolutely love it. Would you like to see it? I can do it for you if you like.
I'd love to. That would be amazing.
It's not like we weren't prepared to do it or anything, and we just casually walked into this whole thing. You may have noticed these very ominous looking, what are these? Envelopes that are sitting here. And they're labeled. There's 1, 2, and 3. And let me tell you what I do for a living. I should actually perform this rather than just talk my way through it. Is I control people's thoughts, their decisions, and their actions. And I'm about to control every decision that you are about to make. Now, there's not much to these. They're just 3 envelopes. You can see the back and the front of all of them. There's not much to them at all. But I do need you to make a decision. And that is 1, 2, or 3, whatever you name, I'm going to take it and I'm going to crush it. But we do need to eliminate 2 of them. And don't let that influence your choice, by the way. But it might have already. It's almost impossible not to be influenced by the things that you hear and see. 1, 2, or 3, whatever you say, we will crush it. We will eliminate it.
Number 3.
Number 3. That's this one here. Are you sure?
Yes.
You can change your mind if you like.
Nope, number 3.
Number 3. Check this out. Look at that. No paper cuts. You're unimpressed by that, and I understand why. But there's 2 left. There's the number 2 and the number 1. Whichever one you'd like, that's the last one we're going to eliminate. We will keep the other. Which final envelope would you like to eliminate? Number 2 or number 1? 2 or 1?
We'll eliminate number 1.
Number 1. This one.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
I was just making sure I had the right number on the envelope. Just like before, no paper cuts. Now I'm joking about that a little bit, but this number 2, and if you remember at the very, very beginning, I said we're going to eliminate 2 of them. Don't let that influence your choice. And that's exactly what we've ended up on, because I have controlled everything you've done this far. Inside envelope number 2, there's something which might be of interest. That's a very sharp, very real, very dangerous razor blade. Thank you for keeping me safe, and thank you for not hurting my moneymakers. I appreciate that.
How have I not seen that before? That is phenomenal. What an amazing opener.
Here's what I love about this. First of all, the props are simple, right? You can prepare what you need to prepare in seconds. It does come with envelopes and a razor blade and everything to get you started. It's affordable too. I don't remember the price tag on it. As you can see, I'm so prepared to do this interview at the moment. But it packs flat, it plays big, and it has all of the theatricality of like a smash and stab without looking like a jerk. Let me say that again. Smash and stab is one of the worst tricks ever created for the stage, in my opinion. Again, these are just my opinions. I know lots of people have wonderful success with them, but it's either a jackass stunt or a waste of everybody's time. And those are 2 things that I don't ever want to do on stage with my character. I don't want to waste anybody's time. And I also don't want the audience hoping that things are going to go wrong because they're only interested because they think somebody's going to get hurt. And worse, a lot of those things, people can get hurt, and people have gotten hurt, which, you know, yes, that's high drama. We love that, especially here in America. We love watching people get hurt. That's not something I want to promote ever. And also with this, I don't think anybody in their right mind would ever think that I'm going to crush an envelope if it has a razor blade in it, because they know that I know where it is. So if they name the wrong one, and they're not going to, well, he said envelope number 2, I guess I have to crush it. That's never going to happen. But they also have no idea that there's any danger. So at no point is my audience ever uncomfortable watching this. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't go, look, there's something dangerous in one of these 3 envelopes. Let's eliminate some. You have no idea what's happening. So there's instant intrigue. There's surprise at the end, which you rarely get in Mentalism. It demonstrates the very thing that my character does on stage, which is controlling people's thoughts, their decisions, and actions, which is what my mentor Rick Ma has done for years. In fact, that's a line directly from him that he's allowed me to use. And, you know, it plays to a big stage. Even though this is a tiny little blade, it can be seen in a large theater of thousands of people without a monitor on it. Even if when this comes out, you have the sound, you hear the sound, you might not know what it is, but as soon as that slices through that last envelope, you know immediately what that is, and everything comes full circle. So I absolutely adore this plot. It is great on stage if you're working a cabaret and there's bad angles. By that I mean if there's people in the wings watching, and if you've ever done a cabaret show, the other performers always watch from the wings. So there's certain material that you can't do in that environment unless you're okay exposing things. I generally try not to. So this works in that. It works surrounded. It works at a street fair. If you were out on the street doing this, you could do it there as well. So it has a lot of potential.
And the other thing is, I know it's a bit of a buzzword these days, but what an amazing opener for a virtual show.
And I've used it a ton that way. That's I've probably performed it more virtually than any, or rather, I said that wrong. I've probably gotten more impact with it virtually than I have in my live shows. Plus, it's different. You can use multiple people in little Hollywood square boxes that you get on your screen, and you can get those close-ups if you want those close-ups, and it plays well on camera. So absolutely, yeah,
So,
highly
absolutely.
recommended. And again, this is not something I created. I have little touches on it that work for me, but this is all Craig Logan, who's absolutely brilliant with this product. We shot this maybe 3 years ago down here in my home studio. The footage got corrupted, so we had to reshoot it again, which he was so kind to come back and do it. He did put it in a little booklet. I don't know if that's available anymore from him, but as soon as I saw it, I said, I would like to buy the rights to this, please. I want to be the only one to do it. And he said, no, absolutely not, rightfully so. And I said, well, I would love to produce this as a physical, tangible product as one-off. I think this will be very, very popular. And it got some okay attention, but I think it deserves more.
It really does. It's amazing.
I think it's killer. It's absolutely killer. I can't say enough good things about it. And I'm not just saying that because it's a product I produce. I don't produce a lot of things of other people. So for me to put my name on anything, you know that I absolutely love it. So it's a great little thing.
And what's it called again?
It's called Nick at Night, which is also one of the here. I'll get a little close up of that. Is one of the best titles of a magic trick that's out there. Nick at Night.
That's great.
Although I think he might have originally spelled it slightly differently than me, but kind of a tip of the hat to those old television shows and the old network.
Now, let me ask you a question, because I want to, watching that performance gives me something that I want to talk to you about. I get asked a lot of questions on this channel. And one question that comes up a lot is the question of, as a mentalist, does performing magic weaken a performance of mentalism? And you're the perfect person to speak to about this, because when you first started performing, you've maybe moved away from it a little bit now, but when you first started, a lot of people looked at you as a pure mentalist.
Sure.
But a lot of people don't think about it, but you also do a lot of non-mentalism. I told you the story just off camera, but a few weeks ago, I uploaded a video of me doing your full coin assembly matrix. And when everybody was saying, oh, that's amazing, is that yours? I was like, no, it's Patrick Redford. And about 5 people said, really? So, you have chops as a coin guy, which I can appreciate as a coin guy. You have serious chops as a magician.
Let me just sit back and bask in all the compliments being unnecessarily thrown at me.
It's true. If anybody, I've got a reputation of saying what I think, and I really thought that's one of the best coin tricks I've ever seen. So my question is, you're uniquely qualified to talk about this. Do you think that magic performed in a mentalism show weakens the mentalism? Do you think it should be a pure mentalism show?
I think there's absolutely no absolute answer to that question, because it depends on what character you are on stage. For me, no, it doesn't hurt it at all. But I'm also not the pure mentalist on stage trying to convince people that what I do is real. Although I have to say, people who do that character also can do magic on stage and have never had an issue. I think this is a weird debate that we have, because sometimes we like to listen to ourselves talk and we like to rile each other up. And when politics just isn't enough to do that, we talk about this debate, like, are playing cards okay in mentalism? No, yes, most people say yes, but for some reason there's still a debate, which the debate really is it okay for me? And that's the question that everybody should be asking, not is it okay for everybody else? The rules that I've decided for me, I don't get to decide what works for you and what doesn't work for you. I don't get to decide what character you get to play on stage. That's a very personal choice we all have to make. So mixing magic and mentalism, I have no problem with that. Never had a problem with that. In fact, the material that I choose if it is right for the show or right for that moment. Not, hey, I've got this great trick. How do I make that great trick fit into this theme that I'm trying to do? That approach doesn't work for me. I'm sure it can work for some people, but it's more of, all right, this is the story I want to tell. This is the theme that I want to approach. This is the message I want to be received. What material do I have at my disposal in my toolbox that's going to help deliver that message or deliver that story, deliver that feeling that I want to invoke in my audience? If that's a magic trick, awesome. If it's a mentalism trick, awesome. For me, and we spoke about this earlier off camera, I don't want anybody to come into my office, into my theater, thinking what I do is real. I don't want anybody to leave my theater dumber than when they walked in. When I say dumber, I mean somebody might come in as a skeptic and leave a believer. I'm not okay with that. That's easy to do, by the way. It's very easy to convert a skeptic into a believer. It's much, much harder to convert a believer into a skeptic. That's really intriguing to me, and nearly impossible, by the way. And most would say a fight not worth having. Most people go, well, I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. Those who believe will believe, yada, yada, the classic quote. And if you don't know it, Google it. We all have the power to do that. But when I was doing critical thinking talks in colleges, something early on that happened is that after my talk was over, and I would do a mentalism set in the middle of that talk, and we would use that as a talking point and a reference point. People would come up to me after and say, okay, your show's over. You can stop lying to us now. How long have you had the gift? And I'd go, wait, what? What did I do wrong for the last hour and a half that we were just talking? And I realized that for me, it's not enough to just tell somebody something isn't real. You have to make them see the complete path. And I can't just say, this is fake, here's how I did it. That's not helpful. That's actually making people half smart, which is a nice way of saying stupid or more dumb. And when somebody is half smart, they go, well, all right, I understand how that thing works. But this thing that I saw over here, when this person read my mind, he didn't do that thing. So obviously this thing must be real, which is the wrong conclusion to make. So whenever somebody says, well, if it's not real, tell us how I do it. I said, I can't do that. I said, look, I've dedicated my whole life to this study, right? Do you have, how old am I? I'm 38 now. Do you have 38 years of your life to spend on this? Probably not. You're probably not that interested in it. Most people aren't. So just to give you the answer is going to hurt you rather than giving you building blocks to learn how to ask the right questions. And this isn't just mentalism wise. I mean, especially the temperature of the world lately and in recent years has been drastically different. And I think in part because we've forgotten how to train people to ask the right questions, to draw the correct conclusions. So really smart people get wrapped up in really stupid ideas and ideologies. And that is scary. And I think as mystery performers, we have a responsibility. Yes, reading minds is fun. Yes, getting our ego stroked feels really good in the moment because we have power that these small, meaningless minions don't. Or maybe we are transforming people's lives and giving them life-changing moments, but we're doing it under false pretenses because it is a trick. Regardless if that trick is based in a lot of psychology, it's still a trick. And for me personally, morally, I don't want to be that person. I want to help people and actually help them, not make them half smart or make them more dumb. Because when you believe a small lie, you believe a slightly bigger lie, and then that snowballs into some really incredibly dangerous things. And I don't want to be personally part of that system.
I completely agree.
We just got really deep there when you asked, can you combine magic and mentalism? So in short, yes, absolutely. In fact, you can use magic as an illustration on why the mentalism is strong or just as strong. You go, look, this coin trick that I'm doing, right? This is an illustration. This is exactly like all the mentalism that I'm doing in every single way. An audience isn't used to seeing that juxtaposition, let alone a performer going, these are the same. And then they go, wait a second, these are the same. That brings new questions to mind. Not how did you do it? Is this real? To say, wait a second, these are the same thing. Yeah. You ask very different questions now. I take a nice little pause in my show and I say, for years, I watched, there were some great mind readers that I would watch on the television when I was younger. I say smaller usually, but I can actually start saying younger now because I'm getting old. I say 38. I'm not that old yet. Don't chastise me, internet, please. Right now I see the comments going, old, look at him, vegan. Just had to get that in there for those of you who know I'm vegan and would always mention it. I've now pleased those 5 people who are now venomously going, I knew he was going to mention vegan. Here's the $20, my friend. But I grew up watching some really great mind readers on television, and I genuinely thought that stuff was real. I genuinely thought that Uri Geller was real. I genuinely thought Kreskin was real. Spoiler alert, probably not, I'm guessing. And so I wanted to learn what they did, right? Like many people seeing, I guess it would be the equivalent of watching Darren Brown and going, oh, Darren Brown is real, even though he talks very vigorously of that, no, he is not, right? I have mad respect for David Blaine because anytime, and this is even more true now than it used to be, anytime somebody goes, wow, how did you know that? How did you read my mind? David Blaine will come out and say, it's just a trick. There's no prevarication. There's no, well, I combine my five senses to create the illusion of the sixth, which if you think about what you're saying, yeah, that's really honest, but most people will not hear it that way. Very, very few people come out and say this is all bullshit.
Yeah, it's true.
I think for my character, that's interesting. So I have a moment in my show, which I started to say about 3 times, and I keep getting off track. Again, that's what I do. I apologize. Where I just sit back. I said, look, there's a person on television I saw, and I wanted to learn what they do. So I started studying. I started reading books. And after reading thousands of books and writing a few of my own, I realized every part of it, every single last bit of it is bullshit. All of it. None of it was real. That's in the middle of my show. That's not even the start of my show. There's a soft disclaimer at the top. But this is right after I do a strong mentalism thing. I give that talk in the middle of my show, not because I think that I'm hurting the audience or breaking that fourth wall or pulling them out of the show or the imagination or the play of it, because imagination and play is extremely important. It's how children process the world around them, right? We need imagination and play. Adults need it too, by the way, but adults are more embarrassed to play that game. I think less so now. We have all sorts of LARPing and Comic-Conning that adults flock to, and now it's become more socially acceptable, although we still kind of view those people as geeks, losers, and the weirdos of the world, right? So while it is acceptable, it's not massively acceptable. So we've created other things in our delusion so that we can play pretend to process the world around us. But as soon as, just like with a kid, as soon as somebody comes along and says, that lie that you're believing, that pretend game you're playing, that's actually real. A child will go, oh, okay, it's real. But a child doesn't have to be told that the game of pretend that they are playing is pretend. They already know. It's not until an outside force comes along and goes, do you know Santa Claus? Santa Claus is real. The child will go, okay, Santa Claus is real. And in a lot of ways, a lot of adults have told other adults Santa Claus is real. And we forgot to tell them we're all just playing a game of pretend. And that's when this stuff becomes dangerous. But it's fun if we all know it's pretend, because we all are willing to suspend our disbelief. So if I put a magic trick in the middle of a mentalism show, it's the same thing as all the mentalism. Let's be honest, it's all magic. Every single last part of it. And like all magic, it's bullshit. But that doesn't mean it's any less magical or impactful or good feeling, because it can be all those things if I bring that to the table. But it can also be absolutely crap, boring, meaningless, and trivial. But that's because that's what I brought to that presentation. So it's all what you make of it.
That is the best answer to that question I've ever heard. Just perfect, absolutely perfect.
I've spent a lot of time talking about that very topic and in different avenues, and it's something I'm very, very passionate about, especially in the critical thinking talks that I do give. And I think that is really, really important, not just in magic, not in just learning to be a good critical thinker, but just a creative thinker in general, outside of magic even.
I totally agree. Now, let's change subject and talk about something that you are known for from a creativity point of view. In recent years, you've been the guy that's revolutionized stack work. And you've done what I thought was completely impossible. You've taken many users of Mnemonica and various other stacks, and you've converted them to your own stack, which is incredible. Because as somebody who uses Mnemonica, the thought of forgetting all of that and starting again just scares the bejeebers out of me. And that's why, even though I understand why your stack is better, it's why I've never taken the plunge.
I'd say it's different. I'm not willing to say it's better. It's more convenient in a lot of ways.
More
But
commercial.
if it's working for you, it's working for you, right? There's a couple schools of thought in stack work, and that is, does the stack matter? Most people, Tamariz, Aronson when he was still with us, etc., will say no, the stack doesn't matter. I say the stack does matter, but which stack doesn't matter. But the stack you choose is the important one for you. And for me, the only reason Redford Stack exists, which is weird calling something the Redford Stack, less weird because Redford's not really me. So when I talk about the Redford Stack, it's like this just thing that exists. I called it the pattern stack for years, even though that's a weird name for it because it's not really, there's not a pattern to it. It is a mem stack, but it's just what I referred to it as. When I decided to publish it, we should stick Patrick's name on this. That's what we should do because my ego needs stroking. That's what Patrick needs because Patrick's kind of a jerk, and without that, he'll be very insecure. So that's why when Patrick and I talked about it, I decided we should give it to him. He fought me at first, and then he came around to it. Anyway, I never expected anybody to pay any mind to the Redford Stack. In fact, I have no memory of this. I did a lecture on Long Island in New York, and somebody asked me about stack work. And I think at that time I was probably talking about the Any Card at Any Number that I was promoting at the time, which became the Hands Off DVD that we mentioned. I don't know if that was on camera or off at this point,
Not
but
too
I use a stack in that, and I was an Aronson stack user for years. But I had converted over to this other thing, and somebody asked me a question about it, and I said, "Oh, it's just my stack. It's just what I use." But any stack works. In fact, no stack works for that trick. You don't need a stack. You don't need to do any mental calculations. It's a fun little thing. Possibly some improvements will be coming out probably in the third book, which just to see what there's a third book. We haven't even gotten through the second book yet. A whole nother story. Wow, we're doing all of this again, aren't we?
good.
So where were we? Let me reel myself back in. There's just so much going on up here that we need to talk about and get through. So I never expected anybody to look at this stack and take their years with Mnemonica or Aronson stack or Nicholas stack or whatever stack they were using, breakthrough card system, all these wonderful things that exist that people have spent years of their life creating and other people tinkering with and pulling apart and finding new things and going, "Oh, that was cool. Let's go and play with this now." That's crazy to me. It's still crazy to me. It's crazy that the community is as big as it is. Everyone told me when I planned to put Redford Stack out, the first book in the series, which is temporarily out of order, I went to a well-known magic company, and that because I had no interest in having a bunch of books sitting around in storage and selling them off, because I wanted to do this book as a hardcover book. I wanted it to not be print on demand and be a proper magic book. Because everything prior to this has been either a nice print on demand. Print on demand is great. It's a good quality product, but it's not as good as a proper book. And I felt like it was time to finally put this out there. And I knew I wasn't going to sell very many of them at the time. So I went, I'm going to go all out because I'll sell through them and I won't have to deal with it ever again. I'm now in the third printing of that first book. Which annoys the hell out of me. And thank you, everyone who has bought one and plays with it. And that I love you all for that. It's also really annoying because I'm now I think I have maybe 200 copies of the first book left. And I'm going, I don't want to print another 1,200 of them because I have to figure out where to put them. And now I'm on book 2, and that just came into my life last week. I just took the semi pulled up to the house and we unloaded them into the garage, which is where they're currently sitting until they come into the house properly, but we're still shipping them out. So that will change. And I just don't want to be the curator or the caretaker for a bunch of books. I just have no interest in that. So I had to make the important decision. Do we switch it to print on demand and the quality of the book goes down in a different format? And that's probably the direction we'll go. So if you want one, get it now while you can. I don't know what the world supply is. I just know what I have. Murphy's the wholesaler just did another order. I think they just took on another 100 of them or so. So they're out there. But again, people have said, mnemonica, I'm a hardcore mnemonica user. I'll never switch. What does this Redford guy have? But people talk, people chat, people gossip. And I'm not here to convert anybody. There are Stack guys out there, and mnemonica is gospel. Aronson Stack is gospel. This is like the atheist coming in the room and going, hi, right? None of us are ever going to convince anybody of anything, and I'm not here to. It's just, this is what I use. This is what I like. And then there's some people who come from this camp and go, yeah, that's pretty cool. And they'll learn this and go, I'm still going to keep mnemonica. And eventually they go, I haven't touched mnemonica in months. I haven't stacked in mnemonica in months. There's no reason to. And I think that's interesting. It's fascinating. It's flattering. And I think the big appeal for most people, and again, I'm guessing, I don't actually know, is that one, I can crack a new deck of cards and be into Redford Stack within 60 seconds. I can shuffle a deck of cards and be into my stack in no time at all. In front of an audience, by the way, which leads us into another product that recently came out, which was supposed to be in book 3. This has always been a 3-book project because there's just so much material that I have on Stackwork that I don't use much anymore because I don't have that venue anymore. I'm not working restaurants anymore, and I haven't in years. And so this material deserves to live on in other people who will do it loads better than I ever did. Like the coin stuff, right? I have all sorts of problems with my hands and my wrists, and I have arthritis and pain and all that. That material deserves people who are competent like yourself actually doing it well versus just living in a dark corner of my brain because it doesn't get used. Although I do like that coin matrix. I do still do the coin matrix occasionally.
So good.
Because when you do it, and again, we're getting off Stackwork for a second, but when you do that coin matrix, and you can say this because you've played with it, I can't wait to see this video, by the way, now that I know it exists, you fool yourself. Yeah. On that first phase where those 4 coins disappear and they are all under that one bill, yeah. Your brain, even though you are the one who did the moves, you are the one who physically put them there, your brain is still fooled. And for me, it's rare that us as performers get the experience of the magic trick along with everyone else because we know how it's done. And the reason that works so well is a philosophy of what I call snapshots. And that you can use this at any magic trick, not coin tricks or card tricks or mentalism tricks, any magic trick, is if you think about the material you're doing as snapshots, right? You're creating hand-painted pictures that you're painting and freezing for your audience. The brain consumes those, takes a mental picture of that moment and goes, okay, I know where everything is. Everything is accounted for. So when it gets the new snapshot, there's no space in between those 2 pictures anymore. That becomes a blur, and that creates that moment of magic. I've always said that non-visual magic is so much more powerful than visual magic. Like I love shadow coins, right? Where you wave your hands over the coins and they jump. I think that's less powerful because your brain goes, wow, that's amazing. And you have that instant gratification of, holy crap, I have no idea how that works. And you respond physiologically to it. But when everything's covered up and you see that first picture and they're uncovered and you get the second picture, your brain fills in all those details, which means it's going to stay with you longer. You still get that instant gratification at the end because your brain is responding to that information. But we didn't spoon feed your brain. We didn't tell it what to see and think. Your brain did all that work for you. Because it's non-visual, it's like, we'll get back to stack stuff in a second, but right, a simple double lift or a color change. If I show you a card, put the card down, and then all of a sudden that card has changed, that's so much more magical than doing an Erdnase change or whatever favorite finger flicking change you want to do. Or even, I mean, there's some incredible gimmicks out there that do some incredible things that look like movie special effects, but do they stay with you as long? I would argue, as a person with a degree in psychology, I would argue no, because your brain has to do less work. And the magic, all good magic, in my opinion, again, these are just my opinions, happens in your audience's mind. And no magic actually happens in the moment. It only happens afterwards when we replay it again. And consequently, that's how all memory works. You never actually experience anything in real time. The only thing that exists is the memory of it. So if that memory that your brain is recreating is exactly what we showed you, right? It's like looking into a mirror. A mirror can be really unforgiving. I want that image to be forgiving. I want the details to be a little bit gray. in some areas, and I want those details to be embellished by your brain because the magic will be that much more better and that much stronger for it. So this is a debate I get into lots of people, especially after a lecture. They'll go, well, no, yeah, I have to tell you, visual magic, that's where it's at. It's got to be visual magic. I'm like, you missed the point. I have no problem with visual magic. You can take really good visual, strong magic and still take advantage of these other things. But just think about those snapshots along the way and those freeze frames, because visual magic can enhance all that non-visual stuff. But the non-visual stuff is what's going to stay with you longer and last a lifetime, which actually gets us back to the original question or the original comment that you made, which is, why do people make the switch? Wow, how am I gonna bridge these things together? I can't wait to find out myself, but it's gonna happen. So it's all about time, right? So you can take mnemonica. Mnemonica is great. I was always jealous of mnemonica users because I was an Aronson Stack guy. I still love Aronson Stack, but I was jealous because mnemonica could go into a stay stack. Aronson couldn't go into stay stack. So I instantly went, ooh, there's all sorts of stay stack tricks that I would love to be able to do that I can't do as an Aronson Stack guy. So now I have to carry 2 stacks. Oh, that's horrible. Or mnemonica, you can take a brand new deck of cards, open it up, and through some, let's be honest, some weird gymnastics written up in the book. I know there's cleaner ways, but the way it's written up in the Bible of MemStack material, it's a process to go from new deck order into mnemonica. Mm-hmm. And it's not just a simple shuffle and done. It's a process. So it was like finding out Santa Claus isn't real. I fantasized about mnemonica forever and was really, really anxious to get my hands on the English edition finally and figure out what we've been missing by not knowing Spanish for all these years. That was my face when I read the book. The book is great, but I bought the book to do this Holy Grail thing that just isn't there because it was the non-visual in my head, right? I created something that doesn't exist because for years I fantasized about it and I remembered things and I created things in my brain. And once I finally found out what it was, I went, oh, this isn't quite what I was hoping. This isn't quite what I wanted. It's still great. Must reading for anybody who wants to do any MemStack work. Absolutely, there's gold in that book. But the stack itself and the ways in and out, I just wanted something better. And so I never made the switch. I was an Aronson Stack guy. And it wasn't until I got into an argument with my friend Dan Fishman. We were in a little coffee shop in Birmingham, Michigan. And he said, MemStacks are bullshit. And I went, those are fighting words, my friend. Let's throw our decks down. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's go. And he goes, no. There's nothing that I can't do with size Stebbins that you can, there's nothing that you can do with Aronson Stack that I can't do with Stebbins. And I went, wait a second. I have no counter argument to this. I tried, trust me, I tried. I love debating with people. I tried really hard. But at the end of the day, if I were to memorize size Stebbins, which some people call that their stack, it's a great stack, especially if you memorize it. Yeah, it's one of the best stacks that you can have. The only weakness to it, which isn't a weakness if you're using it in the real world, is if you spread it out, somebody might see that the cards are alternating every other card. That's the only weakness to Stebbins, is that and the mathematical pattern of the actual arrangement. So then he concluded our debate with, but I know you'll go home, you'll think about this, you'll come up with something even better. And I went, screw you, Dan Fishman. He does this, he goes, I have a dream about something I don't want to put in the work, but I know if I mention it to my friend George Tait, he will obsess over it and eventually come up with something and then I get to use it. This is our friendship in a nutshell. And that's how Redford Stack was born. Is I went home and I went, what can I do with this? There was conversations about Tim Conover's stack, which was a variation of size Stebbins with some overhand shuffle run techniques. I talk about that in the first book as well. That gets into an arranged order. And all it was doing was really just camouflaging Stebbins, and the run pattern in and out of that wasn't great. If you can find that book, which is really hard to find, I didn't actually find Tim's work on this until well after Temporary Out of Order was put out. A friend was kind enough to just mail me his copy, which is an amazing thing. It's lovely. See, here's another reason to publish books. People just send you stuff. You don't even ask for it. You
that.
go, it's piling up. Stop. Just stop sending me stuff. Thank you. No, people send you stuff because all of a sudden they think that your opinion matters. And spoiler alert, my opinion doesn't. My opinion doesn't matter at all. But I always appreciate anything anybody sends me. So thank you to those of you who have. I don't mean to. That was Patrick talking. I'm sorry for Patrick being a jerk. George is back now. So thank you for all the kindness. But so yeah, the stack is essentially, it has an engine, I like to say, of size Stebbins, but it is not size Stebbins. It looks genuinely mixed, but what are there, thousands of different tricks built in Stebbins already?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be completely disconnected from that. The other advantage of Stebbins is you can shuffle a new deck of cards into Stebbins quite easily. Darwin Ortiz has his method. I have a completely different method. Marlowe had his method. Lots of people have explored that. But I also really didn't want to give up any of the features that I had in the Aronson stack. Features that I didn't use necessarily, but might want to use. And then there's all those features that were in Mnemonica that I wanted, that I didn't have access to, and I wanted those as well. Those two things don't exist in Stebbins. So my goal was, how do I get the best of all three worlds and then some? So that's what this is. This is everything in Stebbins is here. Everything in Aronson stack is here. Everything that I'm aware of that's in Mnemonica, I say aware of because there's things in there that I'm not aware of, are here. In fact, there's things that you can do with Mnemonica that people have figured out how to do out of Redford Stack that I didn't even know people wanted. So now that this is opened up, it's like open source programming. Now that it's out there, there are tons of people now thinking about this and toying with it and using it. And that's awesome and overwhelming and mind-blowing all at the same time, because it was just me going, all right, what is this pattern? What is that pattern? What does that do? There are poker deals built in. There are things that have nothing to do with memorized stack built in. I like to say any deck of cards that is handed to me, I consider a stack deck, regardless of the order that it comes to me in. It doesn't have to be new deck order. It could be shuffled to all hell. As long as it's not missing cards, it's a stack to me. And even if it is missing cards, it can still be a stack to me, depending what stack we use. So to say that either of these books are memstack books are kind of doing them a disservice. It's kind of like that Prevaricator DVD that was marketed as that one thing. Mm-hmm. This is just a book on stack work. It's not memorized stack work necessarily. There's some of that too. It's not self-working magic, but there's some of that too. It's not size Stebbins stuff, but there's a load of that too, right? It's a hodgepodge of how can we get the most out of this deck. The other thing that I think is appealing to most people, and especially to me, is with Aronson stack, it took time to stack. It took me a good 5-6 minutes to get into an Aronson stack, so that once I do it, oh man, I'm now being very careful with this. I don't want to drop them. I don't want anybody touching them because this order is, it's a holy order. Don't want to disturb this. So if I'm working on a new fall shuffle, I'm going to go grab another deck of cards and work with that cards. I don't want to disrupt this, right? With this stack, I don't care. Somebody comes up to me, and for years, if I was hanging out at a convention or jamming with magicians, this would be my stack, and you would know it because you would have seen this on the bottom. You actually see this on the bottom in the hands-off DVD, and for that, for consistency's sake, I told the world then I was using Aronson stack, and we actually stacked Aronson stack, and I swapped out the bottom card, so that if there was a shot that we needed, it would still be consistent if a flash of that ever got on camera. That's how far the Redford stack goes back. But I digress. I'm never afraid to hand this out. I'm never afraid to say, oh, you want to shuffle them, go ahead. Because this doesn't matter, because I'm going to be back in stack in seconds, depending on how much it's shuffled up. But I'm always going to get back in stack quickly and effortlessly and with no mind. I know Harapon has his stack as well, and one of the features that people like about that is that he's built in packet tricks into this. Those are also built into here. Somebody just said, well, why didn't you advertise that when you put the first book out? Because I don't talk about it in the first book. Why would I talk about something you have no access to, which I've just now done? Because I haven't really talked about all the packet tricks. But there's a ton of stuff in here. The second book explores a lot of that, where, again, it has nothing to do with the mem stack. It just reinforces the fact that there couldn't possibly be a stack in play. Anyway, we digress.
But what you've done recently as well is, you've brought out Thought Master, which is and I've gone on record as saying this, it's an unbelievable way, and I was blown away by how clever this was, of any stack user being able to
any memorized stack user.
any memorized deck user
That's
to be
important.
able to do a really strong routine and end up from a full shuffle deck of cards into whichever stack you want to stack it into. Genius idea. It's the Holy Grail for mem deck users. It really is. I did a video on the basics of mem deck magic, and I was talking about how to memorize a deck of cards, and I had about 100 comments going, but is there a way of getting from shuffle deck into stack? And this video came out just before yours, and I've gone down and I've answered everyone and said, yeah, you need to look at this. It's brilliant. It's such a great idea. It's
time to go reshoot that video.
Yeah,
I will say the first book of the series does explore how to get into Redford Stack specifically, and it is specifically only Redford Stack from a shuffle deck. And that's only possible because of the size Stebbins engine. Let me explain. I mean, everybody who already does Redford Stack already knows what this means, but I'll do a quick little demo. Let me shoot to my top down. Ooh, let me do this a little bit. So this is Redford Stack in a nutshell, and you're going to see. Actually, it's cut off. So this is my 50-second card. You're going to see that you have color chunks. You've got a good distribution. Something Aronson Stack had that Mnemonica doesn't have is 2 like values next to each other, which is a classic test to see if a deck is really shuffled or if it's in a stack, is to go through and see, well, are there like values next to each other? That is a standard test that you would do. Again, if any layman is looking at a stack that closely, you've already done your job well. But why not? If we are building something, why not build it that way? There's a big chunk of color right there in the middle. Let me get that on camera so you can see, and so on and so forth. It looks random, right? The most popular card that you could have is right there on top, the Queen of Hearts. The Ace of Spades is the 10th from the top. You could spell to it if you wanted to, but that's really accessible as well. But when I say this can become, oops, actually I have one card out of place, and you'll see why in just a second. But this can become any kind of stack that you want. And there's no like weird color distribution. In other words, there's no like, if this was Stebbins, you would see that this is every other card is red, black, red, black, red, black. But sometimes I want a red, black stack, right? Sometimes there are tricks like there's certain out of this worlds that you'd want that stack immediately. Well, guess what? We now have a red-black stack, and it's that fast, right? This was just looked horribly mixed a moment ago. This isn't a camera trick, and this is like a magic trick you only do for stack users, but this is now a red-black stack, but this is not Stebbins. I could go into Stebbins and get a red-black stack, but that's a long way to go if I want to just jazz my way into the perfect trick where this is good. Now, the reason I can get to this is I just moved 3 cards, and I'll show you the 3 cards that I moved. I moved the King of Diamonds into that position from here. I moved the King of Clubs into that position from the 41st position, and I moved the 7 of Diamonds, which normally is a 6 of Diamonds that I move, from there to there. And by moving 3 cards and they're back to their locations, it now looks genuinely like a hodgepodge of a mixture of colors again, which is fun, right? So there's features like that built into this as well. If I want to full-blown go into Stebbins, this is what the Stebbins sequence looks like. And if you want to count along, you can do that. And what's interesting and magical about this is the same way you go into it is the same way you go out of it. So there's nothing extra to memorize, which is also kind of bizarre. These look like genuine shuffles. You can talk during them if you are skilled enough to talk during them. I have a lot of practice and a lot of hours into my, what is this, a stack? So I get away with this very, very easily. But as you can tell, there's just a few shuffles and a cut. That cut was completely unnecessary, but I wanted to leave the 9 of clubs on the bottom. But this is no longer Redford Stack, even though the Queen of Hearts starts on top. This is now size Stebbins Stack. And if you do a quick little look through, we'll start with the ace, because most people know that, right? Ace plus 3 is 4, plus 3 is 7, plus 3 is 10, king, 3, 6, 9, all the way through. You know Stebbins. This isn't a teach-in. This is just, look, it's Stebbins. You know it's Stebbins. And the same way into Stebbins is the same way back into my stack. So the same thing we did before with the Jack of Hearts, that was cut to the face. I did the same thing. We run the same sequence. And if you want to rewind this video, just to make sure I'm doing the same sequence. I guess some people might do that. I don't know. Some people might not do that. Who knows? But you can do this and say, look, these are genuinely real shuffles, right? And they are. They're just specific patterns of shuffles. Now I'm back in my stack with the 9 of clubs on the face, the Queen of Hearts on top. And you already know a couple of the numbers. You know that the Queen of Hearts was here. You know the Ace of Spades was 10. That hodgepodge in the middle, you can rewind the video, I'm sure, and look at this. You've got that King of Diamonds at the 26th position. You've got those 2 2s that are right next to each other, right? You know this. If you are a mnemonical user, you already know the 26th card of my stack. If you are a Aronson user, you know the 13th card of my stack. So there's little nods. This is how crazy I am, Craig. I want to pay my respects to the people who've come before and build in those little nods to the people I highly respect in Magic, because without them, this would never have come to be or come to exist. In the new book, there's a gentleman named Tim Heinlein who's very kind enough to, first of all, buy loads of copies of my book and gift them to other people. And 2, he was a hardcore mnemonica user who said, nothing will ever change my mind. I said, look, dude, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. And now he goes, y'all should change. And I'm like, wow, I would never say that to anybody for the reasons we've already discussed. But he, hopefully he doesn't mind me saying this. He's come to me and said, do you ever just get annoyed with people who are in the Aronson or the mnemonica or whatever stack they're using who just go, why would I ever switch? It's like, guys, nobody's asking you to switch. You can read both of these books and get loads of things out of them because it's not all stack dependent material. Of course, there is stack dependent material in there. Nobody's asking anybody to switch. But these are the reasons why we have. And we can only speak for us. It's faster. When I say you can stay stack, you're not only in stay stack, you're in a memorized stay stack. If you're familiar with the power stack, Dennis Bayer calls it a power stack. I call it parallel stack. If you're familiar with what either of those things are, you can get to that very easily in just a quick little run shuffle. You don't have to Pharaoh shuffle into these alternate stacks. You'll notice I went from Stebbins and back without any Pharaoh shuffling. Although if you can Pharaoh shuffle, man, whole different worlds open up to you and other stacks open up to you. Tim, without any Pharaoh shuffles, discovered a Texas Hold'em stack where he can deal any Texas Hold'em hand from my stack, maintaining the stack, by the way. And it's repeatable. And then you're right back into Redford again. Most memorized stacks have nothing to do with Hold'em because Hold'em at the time of those creations wasn't popular enough for any of us to explore. There's a bridge deal. There's a 5-card draw deal built in. I don't do any of that, but it's all built in here because I like the intellectual exercise of doing that. But you go, well, Mr. Redford, are you going to let me ask you any more questions? Yeah, eventually. We might get there. We'll see. You perform as a mentalist. Why do you need this? First of all, I love cards. Cards are great. I generally don't do cards on stage very much. But if I do, I use this. You know this. I know you've talked about this.
I rave about this all the time. This is amazing.
Right. This is my photographic deck. There's tons now. Even when this came out, there were a couple different photo decks on the market, but there's none quite like this one. First of all, it's exactly what it should look like. Let me switch to the up camera so you can see. These are genuinely just different photographs from different places in the world, right? Nod to both of our places here. Although sometimes most of the time you're better than us, but that's neither here nor there. They are what they should be. They just look like photographs. The backs are generic nothing. There's no fancy back to these. I know there's some photo decks on the market that go crazy and make these look like playing card backs, but they're not. And they do that mostly because they wanted to mark them in a secret way. Spoiler alert, these are marked in a secret way. And I don't just mean I know if that's black and white or color. I mean, I know exactly what that photograph is. I don't even have to see the whole back. I can see that much of it from any 2 corners, and I'll know what the back is. But the reason I created this wasn't to have a clever marked deck so I could do card tricks. It was so that I could use a mem stack along with these photos, because each one of these photos secretly, as you know, as you've talked about on your channel here, is secretly a playing card, right? That happens to be a 9 of hearts. Why is that important to us as performers? It means because if you are a stack user, you can instantly adopt this into whatever stack you're using. It doesn't have to be Redford Stack or Stebbins or anything. If you're a mnemonica user, you put this in mnemonica, and you can do every trick that you already do in mnemonica because there are mated cards.
I have.
Right? The ice cream, right? This is a 9 of clubs. The other 4 9s are all food-related items. There are no other food-related items in this stack. So I have 4 of a kind if I want to do a 4 of a kind trick. It's not as popular as doing, or not as strong as doing, here's my 4 ace trick. It's different. It's a different kind of power, right? I can do a 4 ace trick, and that's great. But this becomes something else, right? This image, let's see, not that one, that's just an empty box. This image of a door, right? This, not to use a bad pun, but this opens the door to other thoughts and feelings and things and emotions that you can throw into this. You can do the equivalent of a tarot reading with these cards, which is something else entirely. If you know any kind of reading system, right, these are tarot cards as well. You can do the same thing that you would do with tarot deck with these, but it's just stripping everything down. Like with the Redford stack, the purpose of that for me is I want to carry less and not worry about the things that I'm carrying. And also not worry about like, oh no, if this gets destroyed or mixed, what am I going to do? And the answer is everything else. This is now a marked deck. But I can also get back into the stack quite easily using the same techniques that we've talked about so far. But this is now all of those things. I don't have to carry around tarot decks in my gig bag to do a tarot thing. I don't have to carry a bunch of impression pads or things to do sneaky mentals and things, because this can do those things, right? It's a peak, it's a force, it's so many things built into this. And now these are my daily carries. If I had daily carries, right, I wouldn't leave the house without these 2 things. And it does say Redford on the box, which is the one advantage of Redford and me being 2 different people, is I can carry this and it's not referencing me. It's just a thing I found out in the world, which is quite nice. And my name still gets to be on the box.
And I use the photographic deck all of the time. It's worth saying that as well, you've got a couple of wonderful add-on packs as well, expansion packs that allow you to do some incredible magic routines, but incredible mentalism routines as well.
And spoiler, there's a 3rd expansion pack that I'm thinking about coming out with that I've just held for myself. I have no idea if anybody will be interested in it, but it's essentially one of the images in here. We'll just run this by you right now. I'm not going to do it. I'll just tell you about it. And then if people really want to go off and do it on their own, they can do that too. But this image I really like. This is it's an image of a car. Here, let's pull up the close-up so you can see that. The image of the car with I love the fuzzy dice. I think that's quite lovely. This is the equivalent of a 6 of hearts in my stack. And it's very blatant as well because there's a 6 between the 2 dice. All the 6s in the deck are all 6-sided objects. So even though the major focus of this is that's a car, when we look at this as photographic users, we visualize this as dice on a card, which is strange. But how cool would it be to have 2 people roll invisible dice, flip this over, they call their numbers, and those dice now match on each of those dice, right? So I have a way to do that. It's not quite that direct. There's a compromise, which is you both have invisible dice. One of yours always rolls odd numbers. The other always rolls even numbers, right? Because I don't want to have a massive stack of things that I have to ring in, right? This brings it down to a very, very small portion of cards that I can switch in. But that came from a silly mentalism trick that I don't think I ever published it, which is just with an index card. You draw 2 boxes, you fill in the dots, or a business card rather, a calling card. And you've predicted what 2 people would roll. I used to do that in restaurants when I was a teenager. I don't think I published it. I may have. I don't know. It's so hard to keep track of everything. What do you think I am, a memory guy? No.
Oh.
But, we just go on and on and on. So loads of things. The new book, slightly out of order, has a ton of specific things that are enhanced by this deck. My favorite thing being, the classic Chronologue by Bob Cassidy, or the what is the other one with the date book? I could read the credits and tell you exactly what it is, but off the top of my head, it is escaping me. But the classic trick where there's a calendar, and next to every date there's a playing card, which never made sense to me, but the plot was always really intriguing. My favorite one to date is by my friend John Morgan, and that was put out by John Luca in a book called Lint, Luca and the New Tops. And I still think it's one of the best methods and approaches to that trick, which fortunately enough, Mr. Morgan allowed me to put that portion of his trick as sort of a encore to my version of that trick. So you actually get that as well in the book. There's a ton of people who have thrown in contributions. My friend William Rader has a really good touch, a really good move that actually I use in that trick. John Morgan, of course, is a wonderful contributor. I've already mentioned Tim Heinlein. Without these people, I mean, all these projects aren't just me. None of it's just me. It can't just be me. I'm far too not clever for things to just be me. I'm just some dude in my basement talking to you on the internet at the moment. That's who I am.
But you told me about your version of Chronologue in the new book, and one thing that really appealed to me about it is that you've bought it online, haven't you?
Yeah.
You know, I've always thought, who carries a diary around with them anymore? Like, nobody does.
Nobody.
And I think that's just a genius idea, that you've taken this and put it so that you can access it from, a mobile device.
We do carry a diary with us now. In fact, the world has become everything we were told growing up that it wasn't going to be. Like my math teacher would say, "Do you think you're going to have a calculator in your pocket?" Well, yeah. And I don't even have to remember to grab my calculator. It's just with me. It's called a mobile phone. I have a diary with me all the time. It's called a mobile phone. That's what it's called. I've got a Rolodex with me all the time. I've got any answer to any question I could possibly have after doing about an hour of research in my pocket, right? It's right here. These things are incredible because they've made us incredibly stupid, because we think we have all the answers, because we do. We just have to know the right questions to ask to get the right answers. But I took a Google Calendar, and this is accessible. You don't even have to do the work yourself. I've done it for you. And made a calendar. Actually, I've done 3 different calendars, and you can choose which one you like the best if you have the book. One does any date starting at 1900 to present day. Why is that interesting? Well, because my birth date on October, the year I was born, on October 14th, is going to be different than October the 14th this year. So you can do incredibly accurate reading. So if you say, even if you don't do this trick, if you just do readings, as a mentalist, if you know any system where you can take a playing card or a tarot card and give a reading based off of that one card, that's awesome. But usually you would need the cards to do it. But because you know the system, but you need somebody to choose a card, and you riff off that card and tell the people all the things that you need to tell them. With this, you can say, what day were you born? You do the calculation in your head, which is very simple. It's just the month plus day plus the last digit of the year. Actually uses all 52 cards in a stack, which is incredibly cool. Aronson discovered that if you just take month and day and add them up, you have a really good, clever system. But it doesn't use the full stack. It doesn't use all 52 cards. But because of the way there's some weird parallels between a calendar and a deck of playing cards, which is purely coincidental, which is extremely fascinating. And we could talk hours just on that alone, on why that's interesting, because it isn't by design. It's just a coincidence. You go, but it can't be a coincidence, but it is, which is really fascinating with how the rest of the world may or may not work. But again, we're getting off track. Let's bring me back in again. Knowing somebody's birth date, you now have hot information to do a genuinely accurate reading at somebody or for someone with nothing. You don't even need this deck. You don't even need a playing card. You don't even need to have the Google Calendar in your pocket, because you already know that system. If you already know those systems, that's instantly accessible to you. If you don't already know that system, you can go learn those other things if you want. But that's out of the scope of this. This is a card trick book, but it can be those other things. Most birthday tricks with a deck of cards are a coincidence. It's what's your birthday? Pick a card. Oh, look your birthday up. Oh, look, they match. The card next to your birth date is the card, which that's a fine magic trick. That's nice light fluff, but it's still confusing on what it is. Bob Cassidy's Chronologue, which is really, I think, the peak of all of the. It wasn't the first, but I think it is the peak and the gold standard was a totally different effect. It's I have in my wallet a card that is specific to you. I have a calendar date book. Look up the card here. They look up their card. It happens to be the card that matches the book. So somehow he chose the right card for them. It's not a coincidence. It's I have tailored this to you. It's a prediction, but a very specific, meaningful prediction that unfortunately just uses a deck of cards. And that's where it gets weird. Us as performers, we have these really wonderful plots. And for some stupid reason, I'm just as guilty of it, by the way. For some stupid reason, we go, oh, that would make a good card trick. Let's make that a card trick. That'd be amazing. What the hell are we doing? It's a book of card tricks. What am I doing saying that out loud? It's a book of card tricks. But again, it doesn't have to be. In fact, should we try it?
Yes, please.
Now, I could have somehow, I have no idea when your birthday is, but I do have the power of Facebook. So I could have sneakily gone through Facebook. I don't no idea if you even have your birthday listed and found out what your birthday is. So let's not do it that way. But can you think of someone in your life that I generally don't know, that I generally wouldn't know the birthday of? In fact, you don't even ever have to tell me the birthday, which I think is an interesting feature of this, that we can use for this right now.
My son, Ryland. I've got it. Yeah.
You just told me who it is, but there's no way I would know.
No, his birthday's nowhere on Facebook. He's
okay, perfect. So I don't know anything about your son. Is this, do you have more than one child or just?
Yes, I do. I have a daughter called Thea and a son called Ryland.
So Riley is the one that has played with the photographic deck then?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do know who this is, but we've never met. No. Blah, blah, blah. Of course, why are we overproving? We all know it's just a trick anyway. But I have this ability to pick out the perfect gift for people. It's a weird ability that I have, but I spend a lot of time, whenever I gift something to somebody, if I'm going to give something to anybody, I want it to mean something to them. I just don't go, oh, here's a thing, here. Unless I'm trying to get rid of stuff in my house, then I do that. But that's a whole nother story. But I have this weird ability of always picking out the perfect gift. And sometimes I use these like picture cards as inspiration just to find that one. I think, yeah, this one is the one. I think this is the one. I'm going to throw, I should have done this a second ago. I'm going to throw a little, right there, that up on the screen. That is, can you see that on the screen?
Yep. Yeah, I can.
tiny.cc/birthday horoscope. In fact, your users can go and play on that all they want. If you have a mobile phone or a web browser, you can visit that link.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to leave this boxed right here, by the way. And I will not touch it till the end. I'll leave it there in full view. We won't switch the cameras around. We will just leave it there. But what is at that link, it's a Google, I believe it's a Google Calendar, and every date has a different horoscope on it that will tell you specific things about that day you were born. So once you get there, once you open it up, at the very top, there's some blue arrows. And those blue arrows are the navigation arrows that allow you to navigate from one month to another. Just page through to the month that you're thinking of. You don't even have to tell me what the month is. Just page through to the month. You see what I'm talking about there?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Oh, perfect. Yep. You're so serious looking at this through. Now, maybe I'm counting. If you want to throw me off and do some, secret clicks or not clicks, that's fine. But genuinely, I'm committed anyway, so I don't really care. So you have the month. Do me a favor, just go to the day before. But you see on every single one of those days, it says like day of blah, blah, blah. Every day is different. But just pick the day before, and it's going to pop up with a random horoscope. Do you see that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And just for the viewers at home, so they can kind of get an idea of what you're seeing, you have the horoscope at the top, and you can sort of scroll down at the very end of the horoscope. It has things like the playing card and a tarot card associated with that. There's some lucky numbers down there. You see that information as well?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Just curious, what's the playing card on that day?
The day before. Yeah.
Yeah, the day before. Yeah.
The Jack of Spades.
Jack of Spades. Click another random date. You can either stay in that month or go to a different month. I just want you to see that they're not all like Jack of Spades. They're not all like ice cream cone,
Yeah, it's all completely random.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, completely random.
So click another one. What's on that day?
2 of clubs. I'll
Two
just
of clubs, and the tarot card is different, and the I think it says, what does it say? Subliminal image or
yeah, it says subconscious symbol.
subconscious. I don't know what bullshit language they use, but like or horoscope stuff. I can only assume this is made up as well. But I genuinely have not asked you to tell me what the birth date is that you're thinking of, correct? And genuinely, I put this inside here before you even looked it up. So you don't even know, you haven't even clicked on your date yet, yes?
No, I haven't clicked
Can you
on it.
navigate through now and click the date you are thinking of?
Got it?
And pull that up. Don't tell me the date. Don't read the horoscope yet. If you want to just glance through the horoscope you made. Actually, I'm just curious. How accurate would you say that horoscope is? Your son.
Well, as he's 8, probably not the most accurate at the moment, I hope, but
Right, and that's how these things are, but maybe he'll grow into it. I have no idea genuinely what you're reading, but
yeah. Do you want me to read it?
That's totally up to you. That's totally up to you.
The day of sensual charisma.
Oh, I really hope not. Yeah, this just got awkward. This is a whole different show now. Yeah, horoscopes have the awful, unfortunate side effect of not knowing who they're going to be read by.
Yes.
Because how would they know? But what I am curious about generally is there are some lucky numbers at the end. What are those? 3, 4? I don't even know how many there are.
3 lucky numbers. There's
What are
15,
they?
14, and 15.
15 twice?
Yeah.
15, 14, 15?
15, 14, 15, yeah.
Okay, that's weird. 15 must be extremely lucky then if they printed it twice.
Right, yeah.
But like I said, these things are mostly bullshit anyway. But what if those numbers were actually lucky?
Right.
What if they could lead us somewhere that actually had like some important meaning? If you were here, I would have let you shuffle, but you're not. So I did the honors for you. 15, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This is 15?
Yep.
That is a bottle of wine. Bottle of wine. I don't know if you can see that here.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, bottle of wine.
Up there. Bottle of wine. You said 14, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 is it's an ice cream. Oops, sorry. We're on a whole different screen now. I apologize. There we go. That is an ice cream cone. An ice cream cone. And 15 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, that's funny. That's really appropriate. That's really lucky. We have a birthday cake. We have cake and ice cream, and maybe not a bottle of wine yet. So we'll say that's some cranberry juice. That's extremely lucky, because if it would have been one off, it would have been like an alarm clock or a Rubik's Cube or a dancer. If we would have been at a completely different date, right, the day before, totally different lucky numbers.
Yeah.
If you were here, I would let you open up the gift yourself. The image that it mentions, it's not a birthday cake or ice cream or a wine glass, is it?
No, it's not. No.
What is the image?
It's a knife.
A knife. Well, I knew I needed something to cut that cake, which would be the perfect gift that we would need right there. The knife.
That's brilliant.
I love this. You don't have to do the lucky number thing. I think this turns it into a magic trick, but that's optional, right? This is here if you want to use it. You could just do this part. Absolutely just do that part and have a really strong thing in your pocket ready to go whenever you're ready to do it, which is quite nice. There's really virtually no moves in the whole thing. You don't even have to know my stack to do it. If you want to use another stack, you absolutely can, but you'll have to build what I built, which, by the way, this could be a physical book. We've done a print-on-demand version of the calendar, so if somebody goes, technology, I want a physical book in my pocket. I can't imagine anybody will ever buy one, but I've put it together. It's out there if you want it, because the power of this, especially if you're stuck in this world that we're still stuck in, which is the virtual Zoom magic show world, is I don't want to mail you a book, and it's fine, but you can look it up on this Google Calendar, and it's fine. It's not an app. I genuinely have no idea what date you're looking at. I don't have to know to do the trick, which is nice. I know I've done this for some magicians. They go, ooh, when are you coming out with that app? And it's not an app. I don't have to peek anything. I don't have to know anything. The only thing that could possibly go wrong is the internet goes out. And then we just do a different trick. No big deal. Or even better, I just ask you what the birth date is, and we can do a reading from there. And we still have places to go. So
that is genius. That is brilliant.
It's it's a good card trick, I would say. Yeah, it's a good card trick. There's a lot of neat elements in it. There's absolutely nothing extra or fancy or gimmicked here, but I do talk about in the book that there is one technique that you can do that make part of this even cleaner than it was, which is about as vague as I can be without going through. So if you already have this deck, this trick is not included with the deck. You do have to get the book. But there's tons of stuff in here that just translates really well into that. And we included the images from this deck with that for that reason, so that users can go have fun. I think it's even more powerful with this deck than it is with a card trick. By the way, if you do it as a card trick, those 3 cards that come up will be like the 2 of clubs, the 2 of spades, the 2 of hearts, and there's 2 of diamonds in the box.
Because I know that deck, I realized it was a 4 of a kind, right, but the 4 nines.
Right, but the audience doesn't know that that's 4 of a kind. Well, they are all food related, which is weird because you'll notice that before we even talked about this, I talked about food related 4 of a kinds. I talked about that ice cream cone before we even knew we were doing this trick. Do I have special powers? No, just a coincidence. But you're damn well right. I'm going to take credit for that because that was amazing.
That was
or something. Just something.
It's great.
So yeah, tons of fun in there. Just the book, if you want to have a.
I was just going to say, so the book's been out a week now. Let's talk about the book very, very quickly. If we can.
Let's. I do nothing quickly. Have you not figured that out by now? I don't know even how long we've been talking. Well, first of all, let's get a good look at the covers of these. Let's switch back to the overhead. So this is the first book of the series. I had one bad review, not on the contents, but they said that the cover was unimaginative. Their least favorite cover in all of magic. I don't even remember who that is, and it is rather plain. I actually really like it, but to please those, a little bit more imagination, splash of color, slightly off center because everything is slightly out of order, never mind. Bad puns. Oh, this one's signed to somebody already. This is being going out to one of the proofreaders. I haven't sent it yet. I put out my orders first. But you'll notice Max Maven was kind enough to write the foreword of this, which is quite funny, actually. Max is quite funny. There he is. Nice picture of us. There's a load of material in here. Lots of pictures for people who like pictures as I flip through and find none. Bunch of pictures there. There's stack work. There's even a section, if you are familiar with this thing, Christian Grace's level 1, there's a chapter
Brilliant.
that level 1 users will really, really want to take advantage of. Not just things that are stack specific, but even things that don't necessarily need a stack, or Redford Stack or Aronson Stack or whatever. This is the table of contents. Hopefully it's all sort of in frame there, so you can freeze frame and go, oh, what's all in there? But this is just scratching the surface. If you've seen the previous book or even the book Applesauce, you know that I've started to do this recently in the back. There you go. All this material was stolen from the repertoire of George Tait. Patrick is always doing that. He's kind of a dick. Can I say that on your channel? I'm sorry. You can bleep that out if you need to.
Absolutely. You can.
First of all, I love the Stuart James books. If you know the first 50 years, Stuart James and Prince, those are wonderful, wonderful resources, but they're so huge. It's almost impossible to know everything that's in there without a really good index. And those 3 books have an amazing 4th book, which is just an index that's set up much like this, this is every person mentioned in the book, whether or not that's somebody who's contributed to something or somebody I needed to credit for an idea or the lineage of a path. You'll know if something is bolded like this, that means we're actually discussing and teaching a method that person has something to do with. If it's just a page number that's not bolded, it's just we're either crediting them for something but not teaching that particular technique. That's why that exists. But this is the real meat here, is that all of this, you'll notice everything is bold because all of these are taught. This is every single thing that's taught in the book. You notice that's quite a bit larger than the actual index, and I believe goes one more page as well. That's every single thing that is taught and discussed and explored in the book. So if there is a specific thing that you need to find, most of the tricks that I do, you'll have, let's see if I can just find one real quick. You'll have the main teaching of the trick, and then you'll have the further thoughts and variations section. And people are now just like freeze framing and trying to go, ooh, can we read that? Which has even more different things that you can do with that particular technique that wasn't explored in the beginning. That doesn't mean that the main trick is my favorite technique or my favorite version of the trick. Most cases it is. It's here's what else you can do with this that sometimes completely transform the plot and turn it into a whole different separate trick. So make sure you read everything. That's what I say, including the beginning, the introductions of books. I always hide something special for those people who actually read everything, so you don't miss that.
Here's the question: if somebody hasn't got temporarily out of order,
yeah,
can they still?
Is this accessible?
Will that affect?
100%. Yes, you do not need the first book to read the second book. Yes, they are part of a series. No, they have not. They don't build on one another. This book does reference the first book, but anything it references, it also teaches you. And another thing that you get with both books, not just this one, is a video library that you have access to instantly. You go to the page, almost everything in the first book you can see performed in that video library. And there's a couple Easter eggs of things that I teach in the library that are not taught in this book. That is just as true as this book. I'm still adding more videos as time goes on, and we'll always update things. So there's a ton of stuff there waiting for you as well. There's a couple of false shuffles that I really love. One is my friend Dan Fishman's false shuffle. If you don't have my false shuffle project download, it's $10 from pretty much wherever download magic is sold, although you can get that from my website as well. This is my favorite false in the hand shuffle. I love that shuffle. I do this a lot and take advantage of it. And there's a variation I call the redfish shuffle, which accomplishes a couple extra things, but looks exactly the same, which is not taught in the new book. However, it's taught in the first book. But if you don't have the first book, you go onto the website and there's a video that teaches it to you. I could have added pages and taught that in the book, but I feel like Animan in a lot of ways, in that Animan was always writing under a constraint of page count, because back then pages were very expensive. The more pages you had, the more expensive. Now that makes no difference for a magic book. However, shipping is very expensive nowadays. So the reason both of these books are the size that they are is I wanted to be able to ship them flat rate. And if I go into a flat rate box, you're overpaying for shipping, but a flat rate envelope is a set price. These are the exact thickness, which is why they're the same size. It's why this book got split into 3 books and not just one massive book. First of all, I would never probably have finished it that way. Second of all, it's quite a lot of money to ship something to the post. This weighs almost 3 pounds, this book. This is a hefty book, which means shipping it is not cheap if I'm going just regular postal or media mail even, because it's going to be shipped by weight. But flat rate, we're golden, we're perfect. So I actually had to cut 15 pages out of this book that was originally supposed to be here and figure out how to scale it back just so I could be sure that it would fit into that envelope to be able to ship it out so that people could get it and not pay through the nose. And also international shipping is awful. So I apologize to everybody who wants to buy things from me direct, which at the moment is the only way to get this book. That will change. It will eventually come out to wholesalers. But for those, can I plug? Can I plug things more blatantly?
I was going to say, please plug away, because I've raved about your products on the channel for a long time, and I believe that people should support the creator.
I appreciate that.
So much great advice for people that have watched this interview. So please.
Well, I would also say this, look, yes, support your brick and mortar magic shops where you can. If you have one, please, 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 if they have the ability to do it, because they might not want to, order it through them if you can. Right now, at the time that we are doing this, they cannot get this book. They can get the first book, they can't get the second book. That will change. I just don't know when that will change. So hopefully soon. But there's lots of things in play in that I can't talk about yet. But if you want to order it from me, I know shipping sucks. I charge exactly what I'm charged. And right now, international flat rate runs about $30. The book runs $70 retail. So $70 plus another $30, you know, that's a lot for a magic book, and I get it. So here's my offer to you is 15% off anything on my site that's not already on sale. Just put in that code that we have made specifically for Craig Petty's channel. And this will be good for, I'll leave this up for like a month.
That's great.
So whenever this video goes live, that coupon will be good from whatever date is down there at the bottom of this video is posted. That coupon will be good for a month. So if you are watching this in the future, thanks for spending all the time without the 15% reward. But this will take care of, you know, that shipping hit a little bit. And always good to stock up on a few things. And if you stock up on a few things, you're getting a bigger package. I'm paying more of your shipping anyway, and you're really getting a good deal because I don't raise the pricing if my shipping thing changes, which, you know, is what it is. But fortunately, I can fit one of these books. I can fit a photographic deck. I can even fit, there's a little book called Cardboard, which was a sequel to my Applesauce booklet that came out that will also fit in there. So that's a nice thing. The only thing I have trouble shipping flat rate, oh, and Craig's thing, this takes up no space in those envelopes. This is another good thing to get with the book. The only thing I have trouble shipping, and again, this is all information you probably don't care about.
No, I do.
That's just out of reach. Right over here. Hold on, let me grab it. Oh, there it is. Almost like I planned it, even though I didn't. Is this. This is also the most expensive thing that I sell on my site. This is my chair test that I've used professionally for years. I published it as a project called Ensconce Fundament Asunder Maximus, but which was there were multiple chair tests that you could get in that package. I sold 100 of them, never to be sold again, and I've stayed true to my word. But I have never sold this specific test made up, ready to go, straight out on the envelope, and that's what this is. So if you've seen my first Penguin Magic lecture, you saw me perform it. If you've ever seen me do a show, you've seen me perform this. This has been in almost every show that I've done since the beginning of time. So that's there as well. This is the only thing that doesn't fit in a flat rate envelope. It's just too wide. And that's because of this envelope that's important to the trick, is a nice big envelope. Inside here are 4 color envelopes. Everything is made up. There's a big prediction envelope as well with a big poster prediction inside. This plays to stadium-sized theaters. This plays to living rooms. And look at how much space it takes up. Nothing. I don't have to preset chairs on stage. I can walk out and be part of a cabaret or a variety show and be ready to go. I can walk out on a television show and be ready to go. I can walk into my own show and be ready to go. This thing for me has been invaluable. I have a few of these left. I don't have a lot of these left. I think, actually, I don't know how many I have left off the top of my head. You'll have to look at the site to see how many are left. But once they're gone, I'm not planning on doing a reprint anytime soon. That doesn't mean I never will, but anytime soon I won't. But it's, I think, $100 or something like that, $150. Again, check the site. But I make all of these by hand, so quality control is tip top, and the people who do it use it and love it. I've never seen one for resale on the market yet, so that always makes me feel lovely.
So
there you
if
go.
somebody is new to Patrick Redford,
yes,
and they want to get some material and they want to experience your style of magic, they're going to go on your site. What would you suggest that they buy? Would you suggest that they go for the new book, or?
It depends what material they like. If they like card stuff and they like memorized stack stuff, obviously the stack books are the way to go. If you like impromptu magic with cards, I would recommend one of these 2 books. This book is probably the thing I've sold more than anything else in my life. This is called Applesauce. This is all impromptu magic with cards using practically no sleights for the most part. It's a modest book. It's hardcover. This has sold over 10,000 copies worldwide. So I'm always amazed when I meet magicians who've never heard of this book, um, only because I'm amazed that we've sold over 10,000 copies. For a magic book to do 1,000 copies is usually pretty good. 10,000 copies is insane, especially for a little independent company like me, right? When I say company, I am the company. I don't have employees. I don't have people shipping things. When you buy something from me, I'm the one who put it in the envelope. I'm the one who went to the post office and shipped it off to you. So if something takes a couple days, it's because I'm the only guy doing it. I'm the guy. But this has Miracle class card tricks. There is one of the many versions of any card at any number that I've put out is in here. What's interesting about this one, which is the title trick of the book, is that you genuinely have no idea what the card or the number is until the cards are out of your hands and being counted down and the card is flipped over. It is a thought of card at thought of number. And you genuinely have no idea what either of those two pieces of information are from a shuffled deck in use. Everything in here is a shuffled deck in use. There is a couple tricks from here that are expanded in this book, which is why these kind of can hang out well together. Because if you have a stacked deck, this takes Miracle class card material and takes it to a whole nother level on top of that, which enhances things. A lot of the material in here, some of the material in here I discuss on the photographic project, which, by the way, when you buy this, you're not just buying the deck, you're buying a catalog of routines along with it, which that's just this much of what you can do with it, because you can do any routine that you can dream of with a deck of cards with this. It doesn't have to be my stuff. In fact, why waste your time with a lot of that stuff? So you get that too. Then, so this came out, when did this come out? 2010, possibly? 2014, a few years off is when that came out. This came out more recently. I have no idea when this came out. 2019, so about 2 years ago now. This is the follow-up to that book. So much like the first book, this is it's all shuffle deck and use magic, of course. A lot of this is more magic-y stuff than it is mentalism stuff, although there's a lot of mentalism stuff in here as well. When I say mentalism, I just mean mental feats with cards. I think any card at any number, most of the time, is a mentalism trick. If you want to learn how to make it look like you can memorize a deck of cards in 60 seconds without any actual memory work, right? Those type of things, Miracle class. If you want to take somebody out of your audience and have them memorize a deck of cards in 60 seconds and not know how they absorb the information, right? Miracle class type of material. Real world material that I have used for years. That's the type of stuff that was in here. This expands on that, but also has a couple things like there's a 4-card Monty routine. There's a collector's routine with a zombie plot in here, which is quite fun. All right, so there's cute tricks too, but are stuff that I actually do and perform that at the time when I created them, I thought nobody will care about this stuff. And then people are like, when is that going in a book? It's like, oh, you want my zombie collector's routine in a book? Okay, so that's in here too. This one I think has been overlooked a little bit. Again, it's not the sexy hardcover, it's a softbound. It's not your high price $60 book. I think this is $40, but all real world material. Again, very little sleight of hand. There's some wonderful things from Dan Fishman in here as well. There's a whole chapter on the George Tait control, which is one of my favorite card controls, which is also for stack workers explored and expanded upon in this book as well. So these, like most of my stuff, there's a synergy, right, between them. And if I was ever going to do a 4th book, I jokingly say, well, that book would be called Out of Order because it would have nothing to do with stacks at all. But that's really what these 2 books are. This is, what do you do when you don't want to restack? What do you do when things are shuffled? What do you do when you don't want to work? Like sometimes you have to work with this material. And the answer is, I do all of this. This is what I've done.
Or Thought Master and put it back into stack.
Thought Master. And then there was this. Oh, geez, it's just like a parade, a barrage of crap. This is no longer available as a physical book. This is only available as a download. So if you want to just dip your toe into a few of my things, but you don't want to pay the postage fees, go to the download section of my site. That is not all the stuff I've ever created, because there are things that are specific to Vanishing Ink. There's things that are specific to Penguin Magic that you'll have to go to those places to see. And those are some of my favorite products as well. So if you are a patron of those places, go check out those people as well. In fact, just support everybody that you can. You know, I love brand loyalty and all, but we're all in this together. We all have different things and different things to bring to the table. This was really a compliment to the first book, Temporarily Out of Order. And yet most of this has nothing to do with cards. Most of this is mentalism material. And the only reason this was a compliment and has a very similar cover is that I explained my 30-card poker deal, or an update of it, in here. Originally, that was put in a comic book series that I put out for mentalists, which is a weird sentence to say out loud, but I did 5 comic books before most magicians have done comic books at this point. A lot of people have. I was one of the first, except I'm not, because that goes back to the 1920s, but neither here nor there. And I did an earlier version of the 30-card poker deal in a booklet called Square, but it's come a long way. Like everything, I'm always tinkering and always playing, always improving, and that is the version in here. The closer to my mentalism show is also in this book, which has nothing to do with cards or card tricks, and an invaluable gimmick is in here. A version of my free will approach is in here. The closer to my show originally was in a book called Mendacity, which when I was doing it, when I wrote that book, I was actually doing that trick tableside in restaurants. And then it became a stage piece, and the props got bigger and better, and I learned a lot more about it, and the techniques got more subtle, and the gimmicks became different that you need to do, and it became what this is. And I didn't think I would ever publish it again, because it is legitimately my closer. There have been other performers who have taken the plot of it and made it their own, and it's always lovely to see. But it is in here. And this is, again, I think most of the people who bought this bought it for the cards, for the card trick, for the 30 card poker deal, which is my version of the Jonah card trick, without a Jonah, by the way. So there's no Jonah at all, although there kind of is. But it really explores a specific type of gimmick that's extremely versatile. And I actually forgot, I just reminded myself as I flipped to the contents page, there's even a Q&A, a question and answer act with that same gimmick in here as well. That allows you to do, if you're not familiar with question and answer, if you're a magician guy, not a mentalist guy, it's usually people ask the mentalist questions, but they write their question down, they fold it up, or they throw it in a hat. It's never touched again. And the mentalist somehow divines their questions and gives the right answers. So it's that act. This one is interesting because it's like having a stage prop that you would need, because generally there's some sneaky things that you need, or boxes that do sneaky, tricky things. This has none of those things. Again, this pack's very flat. It fits in your pocket and allows you to do that same trick with a quick trip to the office supply store if your luggage goes missing, type of stuff. But for me, as the type of character and performer I am, I was never comfortable with, I'm getting the initials CP. Is there a CP? Anybody with the initials CP? Anybody? Oh, you, sir. Your name is Craig. That doesn't fit my character on stage. My character is not a psychic character. I can do psychic things if I have that moment of stepping out and saying, this is what a psychic might do. But I wanted to create a solution to the question and answer act that sidestepped that problem. So essentially what it looks like is this. Everybody gets a card. It has a number on the card and a place for them to write their question. They rip the number and their question in like a little, like you're getting a ticket. They rip it in half. They put their number into a bowl, and into a envelope, and they put their question that gets, everybody's question gets isolated and is never touched by the performer. The performer takes the numbers and draws them out like a lottery and says, number 32, who was number 32? Can you stand? And now based on that, because that's how you locate the person openly, based on that, you now can tell them all the information that they are looking for, their question, their answer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it all uses the same gimmick, the 30-card poker deal, the free will thing, the closer of my show, all uses the same gimmick or the same style of gimmick in different ways to a completely different effect, which is quite fun. So the answer to your question is, I have no idea where to start. It depends where your interest lies. Do you want to learn some cool psychological techniques that allow you to do some really cool mentalism stuff? Do you want to learn some interesting witch hand techniques? Do you want to learn legitimate lie detection techniques? Prevaricator is the way to go, right? Do you want to explore, card tricks in mentalism? A photographic deck is the way to go. Do you want to explore some manipulation of physical, unalterable photographs? Also, this, but with the magic expansion pack, where you can take a Rubik's Cube off of a card, solve it outside of the card, make it jump from one card to another, make a Statue of Liberty disappear, pull a die out of an image and throw it back in. You can do all of that with this as well, if you have that expansion. Is stack work up your alley? Then the stack books are where you start. Even if you are thinking about getting into stack work and you've never done it before, but you go, I've always wanted to, start with these. And I say that because this stack, the Redford stack, is one of the easiest stacks to memorize that's out there. And there's fail safes. So if you forget your place, there are ways to remind yourself of what the next card in the sequence is. In fact, I don't like to say this because I think you're doing yourself a disservice by using the Redford stack this way, is you can identify every single card in the Redford stack and what comes next without knowing the Redford stack. There's a way to do that. You need to know 10 things, and that's it. Knowing 10 things, you can get into stack. You can even stack the stack without knowing the stack and without consulting notes. For me, that before I had a mobile phone in my pocket that had all the information in the world, that was an amazing thing for me to learn. Because when I was learning Aronson stack, I had to carry a list with me. I had to carry my journal with me and have the order written down so I could stack it and work on it. I could take any shuffled deck of cards or any new deck order deck of cards, it didn't matter which, and stack into Redford stack while I was working on the memory of it without knowing it. So it's really empowering to be able to stack something that you don't even know, as long as you know the system to stack into it, which you can do without memorizing the order, which sounds impossible, right? You're going, well, how can that be? But it's true, and you can. So that makes, I think, it more accessible to most people who want to dip their toe into that world. And then, maybe my stack isn't the way to go, but that's your starting point. Or maybe you're going, well, I already have a stack. Can these be beneficial to me? And the answer is absolutely yes. You can do most of this stuff with your stack as well. But all of the really stack specific things genuinely have nothing to do with the memorized portion of it. So you can still take advantage of my stack work by having the Redford stack and never having memorized it. Yeah. So if there's that video from the first book, which is like 15-minute long promo, which is one trick kind of, which is really just a tech demo of what the stack can do. Nothing in that 15 minutes takes advantage of a memorized stack at all. It's just a stack. And people are going, wow, I don't know anything about memorized stack magic. I thought I did, because they looked at it and went, that's a memorized stack. How does that work? And the answer is, it's a self-working trick for the most part. So anyway,
that's what I love about the idea of it. You can have your deck set up in Redford Stack, and while you're trying to memorize it, you've got routines that you can do.
Yeah.
That you don't need to actually memorize the stack for. It gives people confidence to actually go out and start performing routines like this, because they know that if they suddenly have a mental blank at the beginning, they're aiming to do some sort of mem deck thing, they have a mental blank, they can still go into something else. Great.
Would you like to see one of my favorite go-tos?
Yeah, I'd love to.
So this is a hybrid of two things, right? This trick was in this book, but this completely destroys, this is a shuffle deck and use trick. And I always want to go, well, even the shuffle deck and use stuff that I love generally destroys a stack, right? Mm-hmm. This is a trick I do all the time, and I stay in stack. And it looks absolutely no different from the version in cardboard to the version that is here. Because of some crazy mathematical stuff that I accidentally discovered one day, that I happily found that no one else had realized yet, which I'm sure somebody from the 1800s has at this point. I just haven't found it yet. And I'm happy to say that Max Maven, one of the most nerve-wracking things, I hope Max never watches this, is when you go to Max, say, hey, Max, I know you really liked the first book. Thanks for that. Would you be willing to write the foreword to the second one? And he says, yes. You shit yourself for about a week getting the courage to send him the manuscript, because you go, okay, he's going to find everything that's wrong with this thing. and all the credits that I missed. And fortunately, he mostly didn't do that. So yay, we did it. We did it right. But this is a very, very simple. Actually, it's not simple. Let me rephrase. This is a silly little trick that we'll do. And there's very little setup. In fact, that is the setup. We've just done it. It's done and ready to go. So that's straight from my stack. You'll notice that I was Pharaoh shuffling, but that's just my nervous tick that we were doing, and we're ready to rock. Have you heard of shuffle tracking, Craig?
A little bit, yeah.
Shuffle tracking is that thing where you can take a deck of cards, and through regular shuffles, you track usually just one card rather than multiple cards. A good shuffle tracker, although you can tip a game by just knowing and tracking one card, a really good professional shuffle tracker will track many, many cards. So for sake of explanation, these are going to be the cards that we track, right? These, and I'll just leave them this way, and so we don't have to memorize what they are. I'm just going to redistribute them throughout the pack. So you can see those are really going in.
Yeah.
Right? That's not an illusion. They really are there. And we'll push them in. So here's the game. Here's what a shuffle tracker would do. Through a natural action, you will not only track the position of every one of those cards, but also reposition them where they're the most advantageous. So that was the natural action. Did you see it? That was also the repositioning. And now you're going, holy crap, that's amazing. Can I do it with the photographic deck? I guess it would just not mean as much as what it's about to be. Now you can do that. You can do that with a few cards that are mixed in, or if you really want to show off, you can do the same thing like this and do it with every single card in the pack. If you want to. But again, there's no practical purpose of that. The best thing to do is really just with a few cards. So I'll do it one more time, even though, they say never repeat the same trick twice. We'll shuffle these. I'm not trying to do a perfect Pharaoh or anything. I'm just trying to butt them in there as much as we can. And I want you to see, those really are shuffling face up into face down. In fact, I'm going to leave these sticking out. I won't even push them all the way through so that you can see the moment that this happens. And if I do this right, this should feel like a film strip where somebody just kind of chopped a bit out. Watch. Did you see it? That was the natural action. And that's also the repositioning. Isn't that crazy? Now, that's fine. That's a super fine thing to do. But what else can we do here? I'm trying to work it all out, I suppose. I mean, if we were playing, say, poker, like a regular card game, you wouldn't do this with random cards. You would do it with whatever is relevant to whatever card game we're playing, right?
Yeah.
If we're playing poker, what's the best possible poker hand?
A royal flush in spades.
Oh, spades. There's no hierarchy in suits. The suit has nothing to do with it, but we can do spades if you like.
Okay.
Spades is fine. So this is what that looked like. This is the natural action. And yep, that should be right there in the center. You said spades, right? That is the royal flush in spades. And I don't mean to nitpick or show off, but that is also in order. Anyway, so that's the silly thing. That's called Poker Triumph. That's part of the book. I absolutely love it. It really does look like the deck has been shuffled to all heck. And believe it or not...
Whoa. So you're telling me that you haven't even changed, you're still in stack?
I was 2 Pharaoh shuffles away from stack, and right now, I am now in stack.
That's
so if you remember my stack, which of course you don't, but if anybody wants to check,
number 10, King of Diamonds.
This is number 1, right? This was 10, right? The King of Diamonds is right there in the center.
2 twos next to
those 2 twos are right there, so this is my stack. Yeah. Even if you don't know my stack, that's the stack. So that maintains the order. So the bad news is, if you're a mnemonic user, you can't do this trick. I'm sorry, it just doesn't have the permutations that you need to have. If you are an Aronson user, this trick is accessible to you because the Aronson stack does have a royal flush that comes together. I think it's the royal flush in hearts. If you're a Redford Stack user, you have this and loads more. But this has nothing to do with MemStack at all. It's built in, and it's always ready to go, and it's always there, which is nice. And so I get to do my favorite card trick in the world, which I do as a walkabout or as a strolling magician quite frequently, and as a mentalist, by the way, because this, and you go, wait a second, that's not mentalism. You're talking about shuffle tracking. It doesn't feel like sleight of hand. No. It really doesn't. It feels like a mind, I can't use that word, can I? It messes with your mind.
Yeah.
Right? It feels like you are seeing things but forgetting things because things just happen. Although you'll notice nothing visually happened in that trick. If you think back, you experienced all of that when you thought back on it. The cards separating, even the hyper-visual moment doesn't happen visually. It can if you wanted it to, but it doesn't happen visually, which means it stays with you longer. And yes, you're a magician. Yes, it's a card trick. Yes, you're using cards. Yes, you're talking about poker. But nobody is going to have a problem with you doing that as a mentalist. Because as soon as I start reading your mind again, I'm a mentalist again, right? This is kind of a window into how the brain works, right? It feels, using that wonderful Luc Germain line, which is, it should feel like somebody took a film strip and chopped a bit out. One of my favorite Luc Germain lines ever, that he, I believe he put that in his Forgotten Ploy, or his Forgetting card trick in his very, very first book, which I also have a Forgotten Ploy thing that I put out in a book all by itself called Glem, or Glemmy, depending on how you pronounce Norwegian words, which explores artificial amnesia in people. That's one of my all-time favorite projects. But yeah, there's just a load of stuff. We could talk for days, and then some.
Well, let me ask you a question before we round this whole thing up. Let me ask you one last question. This is a question I ask everyone I interview, and it's a question that especially, well, it's a question that works for you very much, which is, what's next? Because you, to be clear, your
yes.
legacy, well, your legacy is set. If you never released another trick again, if you never wrote another book again, if you never performed another show again, what you have achieved, both as a performer, but also as a creator and a producer of magic, is just mind-blowing. You know, almost any magician in the country would wish they had the level of success that you've had in both aspects of the art. And I know that you're very you're a very humble guy, which is great, but I have to tell you, it's amazing. It's amazing what you've accomplished, and you're only 38, which I have found out in this interview. So what's next? I know you're not slowing down. I know that you've you mentioned a third book and jokingly a fourth book. Do you have any magical bucket list items that you haven't achieved yet that you want to tick off?
I will tell you what people want to be next, but it won't be next. And that is, I mentioned the comic books earlier. There were 5 of those that came out in print. They were coming out like once every year, every 2 years. It was all impromptu mentalism, although that was just a fancy way of saying there were no gimmicks or things that you had to specially prepare. And that was a passion project. They are incredibly hard to come by. They're not in print anymore. They're all out of print, in part because of the printer I used no longer can print that format with that page count. Their new equipment has a smaller page count. And so to put those out, their next binding was perfect binding, and the quality just wasn't there. So people really, really want me to take all of those and put them into a nice hardcover, color, full bleed book, which will happen eventually, along with 2 of the comics that were planned for the series that we did not finish. So the artist that I was working with, his name is Jesse Rubenfeld, brilliant guy. We went to university together. Amazing artist. He is now, a big deal in the comic book world. So there's no reason for him to do these little magic projects anymore. Those aren't his words. It's just there's no reason for him to even take on a project like this. He also did the art for the Runes World book, the Vanishing Ink put out on Rune Clon's material. He was the artist that did the comic book strips in there. So he's done a few things in the magic world now, which is great. Also, just check out his work in general, because it's loads ahead of where it was when he did the comic books, and the comic books are just gorgeous, what he did with me. So people want to see that, but, and it's done. It's just doing a full color, full bleed, hardback book has all sorts of problems that come with it, which is one, full color, full bleed used to be quite expensive. Prices have shifted, so it's becoming more economically likely that it will happen. But the biggest hurdle I have right now with that project, which was supposed to come out years ago and I just delayed, is the size of the book. It's a massive, massive book. Each one of those comic books was 52 pages originally. There were 5 of them, and there's 2 more that aren't in print. With this project, I not only want to do all 7 in a bound volume, but I also want to do a behind the scenes with some of the original artwork, which is different than the final artwork in the book, and also talk about a lot of the references that we put in there, and actually make it what I want it to be, which means this is going to be a massive book. It's going to be a heavy book. It doesn't fit into that flat rate envelope that I was talking about earlier, which means it'll be a pain in the butt to ship out and get to people. So if and when that happens, it'll be a limited release. It will be probably, we will do a pre-order for a set amount of time. However many books we sell, that'll be the amount of books I print, and that'll be that, if it happens. I think it's been at least 10 years since the last comic book came out, almost 10 years since the last comic book came out. And it was definitely a thing. We would debut them at Mindvention every year. The first one debuted at Mindvention. The last one debuted at Mindvention. And if you do have those 5 original books, I don't have them down here in the studio. They're upstairs in the library. But if you do have all 5 and you put them together, they spell out my last name, Tait, T-A-I-T, with a G. So that there's a book called Pentagon. Pentagon looked like a Superman shield, but with a P in the middle. If you turn the P upside down, it's a symbiotogram. It turns into the letter G, and then you get G Tait sprawled across the 5. And I know there are collectors out there that are going to be so mad at me, and I'm so sorry, that if I do a bound volume, there'll be 2 comic books that they don't have in the bound volume. So now I'm already angering people, and I haven't even put the project out yet, because I go, well, now I have to buy this thing, but I already have those 5. What do we do? So for those people, I do plan, and please don't hold me to any of this. This is just the vision I have for the project. I do plan to print those 2 comic books individually and offer them to those who already have the others, and do a very, very limited run. So if you have to collect, if you have to have them all, if you're that psychotic person like I am, where you have volume 2 on your shelf and you're annoyed because volume 1 isn't there, but volume 2, 3, 4 is there, you can complete your collection, right? But these are all dreams. This is passion products. That project will be called Geometric. I believe you can even go on patrickredford.com and see the cover of it. I think that's still up. I think there's a blog post on the news channel about that. And you'll see that there's comments every so often. People go, when is this coming out? Did we miss it? Where is it? Can we have it? And part of the reason for that is a lot of that material works really well over Zoom. A lot of that material works really well over the phone, which was the intention of it back then. But it works just as well in person. Some of that material, has different creative ways of taking the principles in my chair test and turning them into other things. There's all sorts of stuff in there. There's a rock, paper, scissors routine. And a lot of that material has ended up other places now and has been built up other places in other ways. But it all started there. And that I think probably is really where Patrick Redford began, even though that's not where he began in print, but that's when people really started to notice, because it was different at the time. It was a different kind of project that nobody else at that moment was doing in quite that way, where you could actually see the stuff performed on the page and that was explained in more traditional magic text. But you could go back, and if you knew how it was done, you could go, oh, I see the move, and I didn't catch that the first time. Much like watching a magic trick that you don't know how it's done, is you see the moves, but you don't know that you've seen the moves. So I would love that to be the next thing. But in reality, the next project will probably be the 3rd book in the Stack series. But when, I'm making no promises. I thought the 2nd book was going to come out a year after the 1st book, and it's been 4 years. So I did the unthinkable. I wrote the 2nd and the 3rd book at pretty much the same time. So the 3rd book is mostly written and done, but it's not coming out anytime soon because I don't want to compete against myself. That would be silly. So you'll have to wait. I don't know what's next. That should have been how I started and stopped. I don't know.
And as a performer, aside from creating, any goals that you want to hit? I mean, you've accomplished so much as a performer as well. I know that you've really embraced the virtual world in terms of performing virtually, which is fantastic to see. But are there any plans as a performer, things that you want to do that you haven't done? I know that you've reached the pinnacle many, many times over.
Well, for this will be the first time I mention this publicly, I suppose. For the last 7 years or so, we've been working on building a live venue, building a live theater here in the Metro Detroit area. And as of last week, we have a building, we have walls, we have a pour, we have a ceiling. We have some wonderful designers that are designing the build and working on that. And it will be specifically and only for magic in the Metro Detroit area. So our own little tiny theater, which is fun. We've put a lot of hours and research into the space and creating something different than other places. And we've hit lots of walls. Like, I expected this to be open 3 years ago, and it didn't open because we ran into issues, fire code issues and the like, and we ended up knocking the whole building down and starting over. So there's that. It's about all I can say about this project at the moment, but that is right now the next big thing. And that also, in addition to being a live space for live entertainment, when and if we're allowed to have live spaces and live entertainment again, it's also being built as a full-blown live stream video studio that far surpasses any setup that we have here. And this is a pretty good setup that I have in my home, because this wasn't meant to be a live stream studio originally. This is just my home studio that I produce things in. It's also my game room, right? On that side of the camera, there's a full-blown arcade. There's a shuffleboard table just off there to the right. This is a very narrow view that you have of actually what I'm sitting in the middle of right now. There's a Star Wars machine over there. There's a Pac-Man machine over there. There's a bumper pool table over there and a pinball machine. You just have to imagine, because all the lights are off. But over to my left, there's a full-blown 6-pocket pool table. When I say full-blown, it's just a 7-foot table. It's a smaller table, but it gets the job done. And we're surrounded by cameras. There's 5 cameras down here that are running right now. I think you've seen only 2 of them, and a ton of lights that make this look fancy. This is the newest addition, was this table that's going to end up in the theater. Although I've become very attached to it here in Pandemic World. I really like this table. So I'm going to have to let it go a little bit because it really belongs in that other space, hopefully. We shall see. But yeah, who knows? Who knows what the future will bring? It constantly surprises me. The future is always changing. Nothing is ever, inked in permanent ink. Even ink can be ripped up and burned and destroyed and changed. So you take the world how it can come, and do what we can. In terms of touring life, I have no idea if that will come back, if and when. There was a show that was going to be at a fringe festival called Confessions of a Conjurer, which was my newest show that has never made it to an audience on stage. So eventually I would love that to be out there, because I think that's a really fascinating show with some really fascinating points, some of which that we've touched on here that have nothing to do with showing people magic tricks, but just philosophy of belief and philosophy of why having belief actually is important, as long as we know that sometimes that belief is just fairy tale, and why that's important too. And all sorts of interesting topics that you wouldn't generally think would be in a show around magic tricks. But
it's great to know that you've got so many things planned. It's fantastic. It really is.
Well, we do what we can. Otherwise we get bored, right? So you always have to be constantly moving and working on something. And by the way, people go, "Oh, I could never do any of that." Well, I envy the people who can sit down and sit still and do nothing. That is a true talent that I do not have. Again, the reason that first book exists, the Temporary Out of Order book, I wrote that in a week or two, a very, very quick book to write. And it was a response to a horrible event that happened in my life at the time. And I had to focus on something. And at the time, I wasn't on the road. It was a holiday season where I'm not as busy. And I had to do something. So my response isn't sit and wallow in misery. It's let's get to work. Let's work on a project. What can we work on? How about the stack book? That seems appropriate for the moment. Let's do that. So always working and tinkering on something. But if you have the ability to sit back and relax and do nothing, oh man, I envy those people. I really do. So grass is greener, my friend.
Totally agree. Totally agree. It's why I set up this YouTube channel in the first place, because I just didn't want to sit down doing nothing, to be perfectly honest. Now, before we finish, I saw a pool table earlier on. I saw a flash of a pool table.
Yeah, that was totally accidental. I hit the wrong switch with my foot.
I saw that there was something set up on there, and you did mention something about a routine with a pool table.
I did. So this, and we can do this. This is an awkward segue, but I'll take what I can get. This is perfect. Good play to close. We'll stop here. We'll call this our big finale, our goodbye, and all that jazz. But before I get to that, I just want to say, hey man, this has been a lot of fun. It's been nice to sit down with you in real time, because we've never done this. We've never had a real conversation really before. So thank you for the opportunity and the pleasure, and for being the consummate professional and gentleman that you are. I do genuinely appreciate that.
And thank you. I've wanted you on the channel. As you know, I know how busy you are, and I've messaged you several times saying, hey, have you got any time? Have you got any time? And I know you're always busy. I'm so glad that you found time, because A, you're a fantastic guy. I really, really like everything that you do. And more people need to be exposed to the creations that you do, because honestly,
I appreciate that.
It really is.
So let me give you some background on what you're about to see. So this is not a trick I sell. It is a trick I only perform. Several people have asked to buy it, and I've always said no. That's not to say that it's like some big miracle class thing. It's just, I don't always want everything out there. But I will say this, it was not a plot line that was original to me. It's one that I adopted and tinkered with. And I was first introduced to it by Patrick Cuffs, who put out a little digital booklet before ebooks were even very popular. And I think he called it Pool Master. And I fell in love with the plot, immediately adopted it. I had a little public access TV show about 15 years ago that I put it on, and sent Patrick the video of it. And he was fooled because it wasn't verbatim from what he did with it. From there, and I've never told him how it works either. He actually recently wrote and said, hey, I'm putting together a thing. Can I include your thing? I said, well, which version? I have like 4 or 5 versions now, and I still rather not. So I think he's working on something very cool, definitely worth your time. I have no idea when it's coming out or what it'll be called, but Patrick Cuffs puts out wonderful real world practical material. So definitely check that out as well. And lovely gentleman as well. So this thing has gone through several iterations. I did do it for Penn and Teller for the Foolish Show. However, it did not air because everybody who shot that day, nobody aired who shot that first day. Why, I am not sure. I know there were some technical issues that day, and I also know they always shoot more than they need. So I was very sad that never got out into the world, especially because I got to fool Penn and Teller without knowing I fooled Penn and Teller. Because after I was done, Teller came backstage, which they almost never do, and talked to me personally and said, what you did with this, this, and this was very clever. And I went, I misunderstood you guys out there. That's not how I did it. Can we go back out? And he said to me, he goes, no, but you can always go on YouTube and claim you fooled us. And I said, I would never be that guy. And that was a very pointed comment from Teller that I very much appreciate. I said, no, it's just been an honor to even be here and be able to do this. So since then, it was a completely different method then, well, not completely, but there were different elements to it then. Since then, since we've gone into pandemic world, it's just trying to find a material that's unique and different. And this is definitely a trick I can't do out on the road. I'm not going to travel with a pool table. You can't bring this to a stage. It was great for Fool Us because, it's television. You can do all sorts of things that you can't do in the real world. They shipped in a pool table and put it on that Vegas stage. And Chef Anton used it a couple days later. You can see his clip. That one made it to air. So just lots of fun. But definitely one of the things I've always loved doing, and being in the state of the world that we are in right now allows me to do this. And it's just my game room. So I get to do this great, big, wonderful magic trick without leaving my home. And I get to sleep in my own bed. Really, can we just do this all the time? It's kind of what I want. But all that said, you're going to see, in fact, every principle that's used in the trick you're about to see, not that I'm saying pick it apart and try to analyze it, just enjoy it. Every element of it I have published, but I haven't published it as this routine. In fact, the books that we talked about today all explore all the principles that you're about to see being put to use in this trick. So everything from the booklet of improbity to the photographic deck to some other sneaky things I won't mention specifically all go into this. In fact, one of the main methods in cardboard actually gets contributed. Let me take you over to the pool room. That's my game room over there. Let me saunter over that way. It's across the basement, but I'll get there. Or I should say studio. Studio sounds far more fancier than basement. But there's a couple things that I need you to be aware of. First of all, you'll see that there's multiple cameras. There's also an image of you right now because you are doing the broadcast and I am not. The audio on that's going to be slightly out of sync. It is in real time, but your audio might not match up for your voice perfectly, but everything else will. This camera right there, that is positioned on the pool table so you can get a clear view of everything. And then I have this camera that I can actually speak to you on. That's just so you can see everything that's going on at all times so that you know that everything is playing fair. And this isn't just a fancy camera trick, although that would make this a whole lot easier. Now, I did take out about 15 different photographs. I'll let you see those kind of close up here. There's one photograph for each and every one of the pool balls that are on the table. We'll get to that in just a second. There's also this. This will be of interest near the end. Inside there is a particular target that I have in mind, which I will be happy to show you. But first, you need to make a few decisions. Since there are 15 photographs, hopefully you can hold these up, you do need to make a decision about one of those, Craig. Can you just name a number between 1 and 15 for me?
11.
11. 11. All right, I'll do this face up just to keep us honest. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the 10th one. Oop, that's the 10th one. That's the 11th one. That's the, what is that? The alarm clock.
Yeah.
You could have had any of these, the welcome home mat, the cherry, the slot machine, but this is going to be our target for today. That's your target, the alarm clock, and we'll give these a mix so I don't even know where it is. If you were here, I would let you actually mix these up as well. We'll just give them a wash on the table just to keep everybody fair, I suppose. And we'll also mix these around the table, just kind of distributing everything as evenly as we can. Does that look all right to you?
That looks great. No
Perfect.
problem.
I'm going to leave the pool balls where they are, but here's the game. The game is this. I'm going to try to break the rack so the balls bounce all over the table, and the target ball that I'm thinking of, which is in that envelope, lands on the image that you're thinking of. If you were here, I would let you break, but since you're not, I'm going to break on your behalf. But think about the impossibility of this. I am no hotshot when it comes to pool. I know I own a pool table, but my pool skills are absolute rubbish. But I'll try to give it the best break that I can. We'll break from about, see, almost broke the rules. Got to stay behind that line. Here we go. That was a pretty good break, I would say. But you have another important decision to make, Craig, and that's this. Are you playing stripes or are you playing solids?
Solids.
Solids, all right, we'll sync all of your solids. Actually, genuinely, solids, I'll give you a chance to change your mind, but solids it is?
No, I'm fine. Yeah, solids.
As long as you're fine. I always like to give the opportunity. Just a lot of people say, well, what if I would have changed? Oops, move those around. Try not to move those too much. The 4, the 8. Technically, you would have just won the game thinking the 8 ball just then. And I'll take this. This is technically not a solid, but it kind of is. So we'll get rid of that. That leaves just the stripes on the table, some of which are near photographs. None of them are on photographs. So let's just get a clear view. This is the 9. I would say that's closest to this photo. That's the 10. That's closest to there. The 12 is not near anything. The 14, the 15. There's an 11 and a 13 down here. I would say the 11, the red stripe, is closer to a photograph than the 13. Is that fair?
Yes, definitely.
If you disagree with the positioning of what I've called speak now or forever hold your peace, as we say. Now think about the impossibility of this. Even if I could control the break, right? Which that's nearly impossible to do the same thing every time. But even if I could do that, I would also have to control which photograph you thought of. Even if I could do that, I would have to control how these were shuffled. And I have no idea where that alarm clock is. And if there's no way you could know, there's definitely no way I could know. Let's find out where it ended up together. Let's see. We've got the cherry, an apple, the stop sign, the crown. Where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, last but not least, the alarm clock. Oh, that's by the 10.
Yeah.
Right there, alarm clock and the 10. Remember, I said I had a particular pool ball in mind. You had the image, and that is where we ended up. I want to keep this in full view at fingertips. Inside, one thing only. Knocking off inside there. And it says, I'll try to keep this in full view. It says the 10 ball to land on the alarm clock.
Oh my God.
And I have to say, Craig, it had to be the 10 ball and it had to be the alarm clock. Obviously, it wouldn't have worked any other way. If it had been anything else, it would have been wrong. But it had to be this. It couldn't have been anything else because that's not just an alarm clock set to a random time. Can you see? That's actually an alarm clock that's set to 10 o'clock. It had to be the 10 ball. It had to be the alarm clock. And Craig, that's how we play pool in Detroit. Thank you very much.
That is incredible. I mean, that is, I'm speechless. I literally can't even tell you what that is incredible. That's incredible.
Well, I thank you for playing. I hope we get a chance to shoot some pool in real life soon.
That would be great. Patrick, George, I don't know. I've my head's a bit mashed at this point, to be perfectly honest. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and thank you so much for coming on the channel and being so amazing as a guest. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure being here and hanging out and chatting away. So thank you for the time and your opportunities.
Thank you so much, guys. Make sure you check out patrickredford.com. Please support him. And also, you know, let me know in the comments down below what you think of everything that Patrick has talked about. Thanks very much for watching, and I'm going to be back again tomorrow with another video. So I'll see you then. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye, everybody.